Chapter 76. A weird expression surfaced on Yasuo's face, an expression of anticipation, anticipating the results of what he really came here for. Can I try an ability of mine? You know I'm a research hunter, so I have an ability that helps in the field and I'd like to try it, and don't worry, I won't move from my place, not get close to him. Mirok narrowed his eyes but didn't answer, as he just sent a message with his phone, and only about a minute passed before someone wearing a hazmat suit walked close to Mirok and just stood there. The only reason I'm allowing this is because Netero told me to cut you some slack and that you'll not cause any trouble, but if you try anything I don't like, you'll have to bear the consequences. While saying that, Mirok lifted his hands and brought them together, then gave the signal for Yasuo to do what he wants. Morena stood close to Yasuo and just looked at him while keeping an eye on the other two in case they tried doing anything to Yasuo, while the latter just looked at this in amusement. Both are Nen users, huh? Suddenly, without anyone even noticing, a dark purple crow appeared standing on his shoulders with a pitch-black vertical eye on its face. This is a benefit of zero vision. He can manifest it instantly no matter how big it is, but he still chose something small because of the benefit to the vision eye ability making it small gives. As the crow appeared, Yasuo's eyes turned completely white as he used his control domain to keep his body functioning. He closed his eyes with the crow blinking once, only for Yasuo to open them again while focusing his aura in front of him, with a small portal appearing right within the aura. He chooses for the destination portal to appear in the glass chamber, though he seems to be taking his time, as an action that would have taken him an instant to do looked like it would take him more than 10 seconds doing so, which gave more than enough time for Mirok and the person in the hazmat suit to react. The hazmat suit person only shouted one thing in a hurried tone: 4. That's all Mirok had to hear before clapping his hands with a speed astonishing for someone his age. In fact, his speed is quite remarkable, as he seemed to have trained the clapping motion quite a lot. The moment Mirok clapped his hands is the moment both Yasuo and Morena disappeared from their place, only to appear in a white metallic room. Well, what are you trying to do? Even I'm confused about your actions, Morena asked, wondering though what happened didn't seem to affect her, as she just waited to see what he'll do. Yasuo used his domain to scan all around, noticing the room is almost completely isolated with just a 20 centimeters closed hole. He also noticed a few small dolls scattered close to each other in the room with a signature written on them, and this is all the information he needs, as he just let out a small laugh. My new ability is too useful and quite fun to use. The moment he finished talking, time seemed to start rewinding itself, as everything seems to go backward, as Yasuo again opened his eyes, noticing he is back at the lab. He looked at the glass chamber with Mirok just watching him carefully preparing to clap his hands, especially keeping an eye on the crow on Yasuo's shoulder. Yasuo observed this with amusement, enjoying what he just experienced. He used the vision eye as much as he can since creating the ability, and it never got old. He still enjoys the feeling he gets using it as much as the first time he did. So Mirok has a teleportation ability, and quite a good one at that. Well, it makes sense, he is a survivor of a Dark Continent expedition after all. Though from what I saw, once he claps his hands, the people he wants to teleport will exchange places with the dolls, so probably 2 dolls appeared in our places once we teleported to the room, and he needs to write his signature on the dolls. It should be something similar. Yasuo narrowed his eyes, thinking of another thing. The person in the hazmat suit is the one I'm not sure, but she looked like she knew what's about to happen 7 seconds before me doing what I planned on doing. That's interesting, a blue-haired woman that seems to be in her late 20s, someone I don't know about but probably has an interesting ability, an ability that predicts the future. What a coincidence. But it appears her reaction time is not that remarkable, and the key is still Mirok, who is responsible for the teleportation. So if I plan on creating a portal in 10 seconds, when will she know, I wonder? As he thought of this, Yasuo again closed his eyes as the crow blinked once. Yasuo started focusing his aura in front of him, only to hear the following once 3 seconds passed. 4. Instantly a portal appeared in which Yasuo's hand went through, only to appear through the destination portal inside the chamber. His hand became sharp as he cut the infected person's hand and took it back with him, and only then did the clasping sound resounded with Yasuo and Morena disappearing and two dolls appearing in their place. Anger could be seen on Miric's face even though he managed to stop the disease from spreading as he started yelling in exasperation. Damn it. Just what was Netero thinking, making me believe that he won't cause any trouble? Does he realize the possible consequences this could have led to? He continued to shout for a few seconds before making a few orders to the person next to him, and as he was about to start a phone call, time stopped and seemed to rewind itself. As Yasuo appeared in the white room, the first thing he did is creating an amplification domain around the infected hand and the place he is touching it with. He observed closely how the zombie disease behaves and what it actually is. And what he observed brought a glimmer of light to his eyes as his interest in the disease peaked, noticing its peculiarity. Numerous microorganisms that look similar to an octopus with 3 long tentacles except for its light blue and quite slim, and instead of the usual octopus head, it has a sunflower-like shape. The disease seems to already start spreading all over his hand, the same hand he is touching the survivor of the zombie disease's hand with, which leads him to believe that the disease spreads through contact. Yet there is still a composed smile on his face. The fact that he is infected with such a fatal disease didn't seem to faze him, and the same could be said for Morena, who is watching what he is doing with interest. What interests him the most is how the disease multiplies. Each zombie organism seems to attach itself to a single cell by using the 3 tentacles to grasp the cell firmly. The 3 tentacles are extremely long relative to the organism's size, which allows them to surround the cells, holding them tightly. What comes next is much more interesting as the organism starts consuming the aura in the cell slowly, and from what he observed after using his amplification domain on the hand he took, it appeared that once the organism absorbed enough aura, it spurts a small zombie organism from the disc on its head, but the most important thing it does is creating and spurting stem cells continuously as it absorbs more nen from the cell. This explains the infected person's extraordinary regeneration, since stem cells are cells with the potential to develop into many different types of cells in the body. They serve as a repair system for the body, which means faster regeneration because of the massive amounts of stem cells the infected person has in possibly regenerating whole body parts. Once a new zombie organism is born, it fights the mother organism for the ownership of the cell, though most of the time the new zombie organisms lose, but not before causing some damage to the cells they're fighting for. And the zombie organism in control of the cell is responsible for healing the cell, but the healing process is quite slow. This is all of what Yasuo observed and concluded from his observation, and all he needs. He opened his eyes, and the first thing he did is noting just how massive the aura consumption is for using Vision Eye. Using it for seeing 20 seconds into the future consumed more than 5% of my total aura amount. Well, it's not bad, I'm just too greedy. This is something Yasuo found about Vision Eye: the further he sees into the future or the past, the higher the consumption becomes, so the first 10 seconds consumed less than the last 10 seconds, and the consumption will only continue to grow. Hey hunters, mandatory cult break. Stretch your legs, hydrate, touch grass if possible, and whisper all hail Supreme Killua into the void. And let's keep going. Chapter 77. Yasuo then started looking towards the chamber, though not with his eyes, as they're still completely white, signifying his blindness. He was looking through the dark crow on his shoulder, through the pitch-black vertical eye, and all the extremely small arrow threads all over the crow. A hidden desire none can notice is deep within the crow's vertical eye as he looked at the infected person within the chamber, as the latter just continued eating his own flesh without care about the world around him. Such an interesting organism. If I can mimic how its ability works, then wouldn't I be able to create as many stem cells as I want? And if combined with my proficiency in enhancement, I will have near instant regeneration. While my regeneration capabilities are already one of the best and I can regrow my limbs using Violet Rose, the latter's consumption is too big, so a better passive alternative sounds interesting. but I will need further and more in-depth research to make it usable and see if I can mimic it. A glimmer of light passed in his eyes, one last experiment. And with that, the crow blinked and Yasuo decided on creating a portal in 8 seconds. And only 1 second passed before he heard from the person in the hazmat suit, 5. The instant he heard that, he created a portal in which he instantly went in with Morena, yet Mirek made no movement at all as he just watched the scene play out helplessly. The reason he can counter the blue-haired woman in the hazmat suit's ability is quite simple. He decides what he'll do and when, and since he concluded that she can see 7 seconds into the future, he decided he'll do that specific action 8 seconds from that moment. Once a second passed, she saw or knew what he'll do somehow with her ability, and she changed the future once she uttered the number 5. As the moment Yasuo heard that, he changed his mind and basically changed the future. He was truly gonna wait for 8 seconds before performing that certain action, but he only decided on performing the action instantly once he heard her, hence changing the future. And since she can see 7 seconds, she saw the new future but couldn't react to it since it happened instantly. Interesting. The previous time she uttered the number 4 while this time she uttered the number 5. Is that just so she can deliver information about the future quickly, or is that how her ability works? She only sees the numbers but she knows what they mean, but Mirek appears to know their meaning too. Well, doesn't matter for now. Countless invisible threads surrounding both Mirek and the woman in the hazmat suit's bodies, not allowing them to make any movement. They couldn't sense the threads at all since Yasuo used in on them, and they couldn't see them even though they're using Gyo due to Aranen's invisibility property. In fact, every person within his domain is immobilized. As Yasuo walked close to the infected person while also using arrow threads to immobilize him, he asked Morena, "How many people is your ability applied to right now?" "Its limit, 7, then Morena asked wondering, "You want me to use it on him?" Yasuo nodded, "Cancel your ability on one of them," as he said that he created an extremely small needle which he used to get a speck of her blood, and she just closed her eyes focusing for a few seconds before saying, "Done." After which, Yasuo started controlling the blood until it made contact with the infected person, then asked, "Did it work?" Morena narrowed her eyes as a weird expression surfaced on her face. "No, he is already dead." Yasuo looked thoughtful hearing that. "As I thought, the only reason he is how he is right now is because of the rare phenomenon called Nen after death. His Nen didn't disappear after his death like all the other people with him. Instead, his Nen got stronger, allowing the organisms to stay functioning, and they themselves are responsible for keeping the body intact as long as enough Nen is available. A perfect cycle caused by a highly unlikely coincidence." A gleam of light passed in his already completely white eyes as another question spurted in his mind. "But then how is the body moving even after all this time? Is it just Nen? Is his Nen trying to fulfill whatever desire he had, the same desire that caused the Nen after death phenomenon to happen? Or is the Zombie organisms responsible for this?" Suddenly Yasuo raised his eyebrows, noticing 3 Nen users entering his domain range, though that didn't surprise him as he noticed a while ago that Mirek started outputting his aura, creating a beacon that Nen users can sense, because while he can't move, he can still control his aura, and Yasuo didn't stop him. The 3 Nen users took only a few seconds to respond after Mirek started outputting his aura. The lab facility is quite large, stretching far beyond Yasuo's domain range, but he vaguely sensed the Nen users a while ago. What surprised him is that only 3 of them responded, with the other aura signals remaining static. "That's interesting, I'll keep it in mind for when I come back." As he thought of this, Yasuo deactivated the vision ability as the dark vertical eye disappeared from the crow's face, with 2 arrow eye threads taking its place, forming a kind of normal crow eyes. He didn't dissolve the dark purple crow, leaving it standing on his shoulder. Yasuo turned his head as his eyes turned to normal. He looked at Mirek while saying calmly, "I'm done, thanks." Mirek looked confused hearing that. "You are?" He asked, wondering since he just noticed Yasuo blinking few times and looking around for a bit with his eyes turning completely white, but only 4 seconds passed. Yasuo nodded as he started holding Morena's hand, who looked equally as confused. Well, the date has been incredibly enjoyable but probably not enjoyable for you, so let's continue the date outside, shall we? Even though she is still confused, Morena still smiled, holding his hand tightly while Murik's face couldn't help but twitch. This was a date? A date to such a place? He still led them outside without asking any further questions, but he came back hurriedly, meeting with the blue-haired woman again and asking, "Nara, you didn't see any number at all?" She shook her head. "No, my ability didn't trigger at all." Murik frowned. He looked like he did something, and from what he said he seems to have gotten what he wanted, yet your ability didn't trigger. Perhaps his ability's effect isn't within the list. Nara just let out a sigh while bringing a tablet from her hazmat suit's pocket and touched it a few times, entered a code before she was giving access to the said list. "We don't have a choice. My ability can trigger only if one of the 7 specific events are going to happen and the 7 options we choose are necessary." Murik nodded, agreeing. At least we know he didn't do anything dangerous, so he probably just used his ability to get information about the disease. He then turned around and started leaving, though only after saying a few words. "The list will update in a few minutes, so keep the lookout for it." Nara nodded and only had to wait for about a minute before she received a message informing her of the update. Then she started looking through the 7 options listed. Yasuo and Morena walked hand in hand, with the latter not asking any questions until they made some distance from the agency. "I'm curious, what did you do?" Suddenly Yasuo's expression changed into a sad one as he touched his heart area, saying, "You forgot? After all, we've been through inside? That really hurts my feelings." Morena looked stunned, seeing the scene play out, until she let out a small laugh, not being able to hold her laugh back. "Ha ha ha ha. That doesn't suit you at all." Yasuo smiled, dropping the act. "Of course it doesn't. Anyway, how do you want the date to go on?" Morena just shook her head, noticing he is changing the subject, somewhere quiet without many people and no annoyance. As she said this, Morena was thinking about the meaning behind his words. After all we've been through inside, could it be something happened there I'm not aware of? But how? Unless it's one of his abilities, the dark purple crow is most likely responsible in some way. Then he basically told me that something happened and left for me to figure out the what and how. He really likes to mess around, doesn't he? Let's go to a good restaurant close by, relax and have lunch and perhaps watch a movie after, then head to a hotel, spending the night here. Also, what kind of movie do you want to watch? Hearing that brought a smile to her face as she thought about the question. A movie that's chaotic yet calm should be interesting, or a horror movie. If not, then let's just go with a romantic movie. A hint of amusement appeared within Yasuo's eyes, hearing that as he started looking at the available movies through his phone before saying, "A Sound of Chaos sounds interesting, so let's go with that." And the day passed with the two enjoying themselves and continuing to do so through the night. Chapter 78. Cashew looked weirdly at the scene in front of her while Aurillon and Luini don't seem to care. The scene of their boss casually resting her head on a handsome young man sitting next to her with her eyes closed. The young man seems to be caressing her hair with one hand and stroking his earring using his left hand with a thoughtful expression, though his eyes are also closed. Stated Yasuo after a while, "Anyway, I'm the new Heil Lee family's benefactor. I'll be supporting the family, but there is no need for Tserenik to know that for now. In fact, he shouldn't know that, just use his support in mind to take over the other families." Morena opened her eyes, saying, "We'll start by taking over the Cha'ar family and the Shiu family's business, and we won't need to use any force. Something will happen today that might start a war between the Cha'ar and the Shiu. We just need to light the fire to make sure the war happens." A gleam of light appeared in her eyes as she continued, saying, "Luini, you will be responsible for a little bit of a forceful takeover. Start by expanding our territory. If Nen users got in the way, then try to bring them alive, but you don't need to go easy on them. if not then just kill. Also, take some of the underlines to make sure everything is well and you can take all the other Nen users. She then turned her head looking at Irilin. I appoint you as the underboss, you'll be responsible for all the funds we have. Once you notice the shares of the two families' businesses falling, start buying them. You have more experience in this than me, so you should know when the time is right. Cashew, you'll mainly be responsible for spreading the news about anything that poses negative consequences for the other families, and anything positive to us, you can use as many henchmen as needed. Also, you have the choice to be creative and act on your own only for the benefit of the family. You can use deception, massacre, or anything to bring the two families down. But you have to send me what you're planning at all times. The same applies for all of you. The operation will start 4 days from now. You can only start the overall preparation in 24 hours time, but you can prepare on your own. We don't want them to know of our movement, and we certainly don't want them to know we know the incident will happen before it did. Any questions? The three looked stunned hearing the long speech. Something they expected will happen, but not this soon. It took them a while to comprehend all the information given, as a bright creepy smile surfaced on Luini's face while the other two looked thoughtful with a bright light in Cashew's eyes. The latter asked, "The incident that will happen, what is it?" Morena was about to answer only to notice Yasuo opening his eyes. She sent him a questioning look with him nodding to her, which brought a small smile to her face as she said, "It has already happened. A few minutes ago, around the territory of the Xiu family west of the capital city, several people could be seen filling a truck with some kind of goods, and there seems to be a few more close to them with guns in their hands watching around for any intruders. Though the area is quite isolated, yet they didn't let their guard down one bit. They continued doing so until..." The sound of gun firing sounded repeatedly as a few of the guards fell to the ground, with the others taking cover and started exchanging fire with the uninvited guests. Gunshots sounded for a while with casualties on both sides, leaving only a few people on the scene. And this is when a calculated shot was fired, with the bullet heading towards one of the people taking cover by the truck, hitting his left shoulder. He fell to the ground not making any sound. He is a new high-ranking member of the Xiu family, and while he hasn't learned Nen yet, he learned to ignore this kind of pain to a certain extent, so he shut his mouth tightly, pretending to be dead. He noticed that everyone on the scene is dead except one of the enemies, who is walking towards the truck that has important goods, so important that he knows the boss will kill him if he failed. That's if he survived this situation. The masked man seems to be quite cautious as he walked slowly while keeping his gun aimed in case of anyone else appearing. He was about to make a phone call, possibly calling for backup, and the high-ranking member knew he couldn't allow that as he was about to move to grab the gun by him. But the masked man seems to notice as he pointed his gun at him, eliminating any hope he has for survival. The masked man pulled the trigger. Yet no gunshot was heard. No more bullets, which mean mistakes were made, a mistake the Mafia family member made use of as he grabbed the gun and fired. The man started heavily breathing as the pain and the shock of the incident overwhelmed him. He looked at the blood flowing on the ground around him, the blood of his allies and the enemies. Enemies he doesn't know, but he didn't check the bodies. Instead, the first thing he did is calling for backup and letting the boss know. Then he hid in an obscure spot while keeping an eye on the truck. Only then did he start tending the wound on his shoulder. And only then did Yasuo retract all of the arrow threads he has all around and the ones he used to control the masked attackers. Only an hour or so later, a piece of stunning news spread through the Mafia community. Several of the Kara family members attacked a shipment of the Xiu family, killing most of the guards and almost killing a high-ranking member for what is believed to be an operation for stealing an important cargo from the family. "It's not working, huh?" remarked Yasuo, looking at Morena, who has just absorbed the magical beast Kiriko's blood. She shook her head. "No, I don't think I can. The only result is a little increase in my aura pool. Even if I use my ability on more of such beasts, it's unlikely I'll gain their shape-shifting ability. It's just a feeling I have." Perhaps its ability is also related to genetics or something more. To take such abilities, you will probably have to either add more conditions to your ability or just become stronger. The fewer conditions there are on your ability the better, so don't ever do that. Yasuo then looked at the dry body of the bluebird on the table. Even after all of the experiments, it produced no results, just a little bit stronger bird, and I noticed no change even after Morena cancelled her ability. In fact, it hardly moved since it can't use 10, so its aura kept flowing away, and I tried quite a lot of dangerous tests on it using my Vision Eye ability, yet none showed anything interesting. But perhaps if there is someone who can control animals consciously, will the controller be able to manipulate the animal's aura? And will the person be able to create an ability for the animal? Yasuo shook his head. It's not that important to him now, so he stopped thinking about it any further, for now. Then Yasuo asked casually, "The operation is not going how you'd like it to be?" Morena nodded as they started walking out of the basement, "But it's not something I didn't expect. Hinrai Bigandufno, the underboss of the Shiu, is quite cunning. I think he is suspecting the incident is the doing of a Nen user, so it didn't go as far as an all-out war, but they still requested compensation from the Cha'ar family, which damaged the family severely. So across the last week when you were away, we took the chance to expand quite quickly at the expense of the Cha'ar family." Yasuo nodded. "And they still didn't attack the Heil Li family, they're still unsure, huh?" Morena said, "The only reason they didn't attack the family before is because of the former boss's ability. It's quite destructive, so if they were to fail at killing him and he targeted their members, then it will just be a silent massacre. The ability is quite dangerous even for Nen users, and is the ability I have right now, but they don't know that. The only thing stopping them from attacking after I became the boss is how I took over the position. That's a huge variable they can't dismiss." Chapter 79. The only thing stopping them from attacking after I became the boss is how I took over the position. That's a huge variable they can't dismiss. Morena continued as a smile surfaced on her face, "But I think their patience is waning, especially after all we did for the last 9 days since the incident. That especially applies to the Cha'ar family. Irillan used quite a bit of your funds to take over most of their business, so I think they're getting impatient, and the Shiu family is quite greedy, so they'll definitely want in. Also, Luini caused quite a bit of chaos, killing several henchmen of both families, though he got rid of the bodies, yet they still requested a formal apology and compensation as per the code of conduct, but they don't have any proof, so I refused, and that'll only push them more. We expanded our territory significantly, mostly due to Luini's chaotic behavior, but he stays within reason. We basically became the biggest mafia family in the empire size-wise, and we're not far behind the Shiu family in terms of financial power. We just need more henchmen, and we'll have that thanks to Cashew spreading the news through the city, and she's working on spreading it through the empire." Yasuo nodded and said, "Just continue doing your thing. I'll be away for a while, so if one of your plans needs me to be here, then let me know." Morena didn't let disappointment appear on her face. To a certain extent she knows what kind of person he is. He won't let anything come before his passion, and she knows she'll have to learn to live with that. "I'll need you in about 1.5 months. You won't be away for a while, right?" "Nah, it should be a maximum of a month." Morena asked, though hesitance could be noticed in her voice. "How about the other Scarlet Eyes in Serednik's possession? I think we can get them if we work to get." She wasn't able to finish what she was trying to say as Yasuo sealed her mouth, then started looking into her eyes with a smile of amusement in his eyes. "This isn't like you. Why so uncertain?" "I'm the kind of person that rarely lies, so know that I'll never lie to you. I just won't tell you everything, so you should believe in what I say, okay?" Morena closed her eyes as she started resting her head on his chest, hugging him tightly. "You're kind of annoying. Even with all of the uncertainties surrounding you, you're still making me fall under your shadow deeper and deeper. You should also trust my words. I will always believe in you from now on. Even if you betray me, I won't try to kill you. I will probably just destroy the world, then I will go to sleep, so don't blame me if you die with the world. In that case, it's unintentional, okay?" Her tone seemed serious at first until it turned more mischievous as she put her arms around and looked into his pitch-black eyes. Yet only an expression of amusement appeared on Yasuo's eyes, signifying just how entertained he is hearing her words as he started caressing her hair. "Don't worry, even if the world were to be destroyed, I'll still live and be completely intact at that." Morena's face twitched as she just let out a helpless sigh. "You're no fun at all." Then her expression turned serious as she said, "If you ever want to betray me, then just tell me, okay? I will just give you my life. I prefer dying knowing you're honest much better than otherwise. If you don't and I'm left alive, then I will really go by what I said." Yasuo asked instead of answering, "Is this how you were able to create such an ability with little to no conditions? You were ready to give me your life the moment you made it, huh? By using your ability on me and waiting until almost 30 days passes, then allowing me to kill you, basically giving me all of your lifespan while I keep all the increase in power I'll experience in that time. Am I right?" Morena just closed her eyes, hugging him tightly. "I can't hide anything from you, so I'm sure you came to that conclusion a while ago." Yasuo let out a relaxed smile as he looked at her eyes and said calmly in an unwavering tone, "I will never betray you. Satisfied now?" A heavy weight waiting on her shoulder seems to leave Morena, bringing a happy yet peaceful smile to her face. "I am." Then she hugged him even tighter, saying while hiding her face in his chest, "I love you." Then an air of peacefulness surrounded them as they stayed in the same position, hugging each other, until they started to slowly float, with Morena still closing her eyes, laying her head on his chest, and before she knew it, they appeared in her house after going through a portal that appeared close to them. "That was kind of hot. So you know what's gonna happen." Then he sealed her mouth into a passionate kiss, no giving her any time to react. A passionate kiss that soon turned into something more, that continued across the night until the sound of chirping birds sounded in the warm sunshine passed through the window, shining on the sleeping Yasuo and Morena and the dark purple crow standing on a table a little bit away. Well, only Morena is sleeping, as Yasuo is just having fun with the vertical eye ability and also expanding his domain range. The crow blinked, then the clock ticked as the hour's hand stabilized at exactly 8 in the morning. The crow then started flying away, going through the window. It flew high in the sky with the 3 purple threads completely visible to any Nen users using Gyo, something Yasuo wouldn't usually do, but things that may seem like it's happening may not actually be happening. The signs are there and one just has to do some more thinking. What Yasuo is doing is pushing his ability beyond its limits. The crow flew to the sky, looking down on everything with its pitch-black vertical eye, yet nothing seems to happen, except at some point in time started going backward, with everything in its vision doing the same. The people walking on the street started going backward, and so is everything around the crow. In fact, if the crow can see the whole world right now, he will see everything moving backward as well, though it's more like Yasuo who is seeing through it. Even the whole universe is within his ability and possibly much more. This isn't Yasuo moving time backward, this is him simply seeing the past but not being able to change it. Even the crow froze in its place without the ability to move around, though Yasuo can see everything around due to the small arrow-eye threads within the crow's dark feathers and its vertical eye. But Yasuo can't see another crow flying backward to the room because there isn't one. When looking into the past, Yasuo found there can only be one crow, since he can't see another version of the crow going backward. This is a limitation due to seeing into the past not being that Nen consuming and possibly other reasons, and this is especially limiting since he can only create one zero vision at a time. And there is the same limitation as seeing into the future. The further he sees into the past, the higher the consumption becomes, though it's nowhere as costly as seeing into the future. And there is another limitation, except this one is solvable with more practice. When looking into the past, he sees things like a tape, but he has no control over what point in the past he wants to see. He has to watch the tape go backwards slowly until the point of time he desires comes, and if he wants to see something that happened months ago, he'll have to watch the tape for months until the time he desires arrive, and if he wants to look much further, he'll have to do the same, and this is something that could break one's mind. And while that won't affect Yasuo much unless it's decades of time, it's still not something he wants to do. This is something he is practicing, the ability to increase or decrease the tape speed at the cost of increasing or decreasing NAND consumption, though he saw no success as of yet. But there is a hole he can exploit. In fact, he is already making use of it. When seen into the future, he has full control over the crow and his ability. He can fully control the crow even though he is seeing the future, even though the crow he can control is in the future he sees, which gives him the ability to do so much more. The dark purple crow stopped looking into the past and started looking into the future while still floating high in the sky. Until time stopped as the crow disappeared. The crow instead appeared on the same table it was standing on before, in the same position and the same posture. Then the clock ticked as the hour's hand stabilized at exactly 8 in the morning. Some things aren't as they seem. Chapter 80. Yasuo landed on the green grass with the sun shining upon him. All around him is a green beautiful hill with all kinds of flowers everywhere. At the top of the hill, 2 buildings could be seen, Yasuo's cozy house and a large metallic building filled with some kind of inscriptions all over it. His black combat boots squashing the grass with each step he takes, his usual black pants, and a black sweater as the small clanking sound reverberated around him due to the long chain earring on his left ear, with a peaceful smile on his face as he looked at the strange scene in front of him. The scene of all the strange creatures all over the place, from weird-looking and colored animals to flying weapons flying around the lab as if protecting it. There are even small tanks moving around, but the weirdest of all and the largest creature from the bunch is a dragon-looking alike creature standing above the lab and looking around. The light blue dragon looks exactly like the real dragon the Zoldyck has near the top of the mountain, the one they use as transportation, though this one is much small and different in color than the long yellow dragon. Suddenly a light pink wolf that's resting in front of the house started howling once he noticed Yasuo. Then only a few seconds later, Aluka started running from the house as she got the signal from the wolf. She ran only for Yasuo to control her to fly towards him as she started hugging him, and he held her in his arms. Hee Onii-chan, finally back. She then displayed her bright white teeth. I took the liberty of messing around a little bit. What do you think? Amusement could be seen on Yasuo's face as he looked at all the different creatures playing around with all kinds of colors, painting a rainbow over the green hill. Well, it can't be called a green hill anymore. I can definitely see that, though a little bit is an understatement. Well, it's interesting, so you can make as many as you want. Just go easy on the colors, this many are too way heavy for my taste. Aluka didn't disagree. Instead, she nodded, then continued to say in a spoiled tone, I knew you'd say that and I thought so as well, but I wanted to try everything, then dissolve the useless ones, but all of them are too cute. How can you expect from me to that to them? Then her expression turned into a joyful one, not hiding how proud she is of herself as she said, but to make up for it, I made something amazing. She turned her face looking at the blue dragon at the top of the lab and called, Ninian, come here and breathe fire to the sky. And the dragon did as it started flying towards the two, and it strangely seemed to have heard her clearly, even with the vast distance between them and Aluka not shouting that loud. Once it reached a certain distance, it roared to the sky with fire flowing out of its mouth, increasing the temperature around it, though that didn't seem to affect it. Weak but no that bad, its speed is quite slow and its fire breathing's range is quite low. Well, it's not bad as a start, thought Yasuo as he started patting the dragon after the latter landed next to them. Is it not possible even after you have read what I sent you? Asked Yasuo after noting something. The feathers feel real. In fact, the whole dragon feels real, but that's only the exterior, as Yasuo can see its interior clearly. It's filled with light blue energy with no blood, nothing else. Yasuo sensed something more interesting though. The energy's color differs from creature to creature, with it mostly being the same color as its exterior and sometimes a mixture of different colors if the creatures are colored as such. The color of the energy probably doesn't mean much, it's probably just a result of Aluka's imagination and what she's thinking when painting, but that in itself is interesting. Aluka shook her head saying, I read all of the information you sent me, but I still can't make them more real. they're always empty on the inside. When I make a small cut on any one of them, the same thing happens. The energy starts to slowly flow away until the cut closes by itself, though it takes some time. One thing Yasuo found about Aluka is while she couldn't awaken Nen, she still became able to see aura, though that only happened after Yasuo tried to awaken her Nen numerous times, and she can do so without the need for Gyo. Her aura always remains static in contrast to normal Nen users whose aura flows away slowly. These are important observations he is keeping in mind. Is this perhaps a limitation of her ability? She can't make things too real, or more like creating an actual life is impossible even for the entity, or is it just forbidden? Oh well, I wished for the ability just so she can have fun with it, so it doesn't matter for now. Yasuo then spent some time playing around with Aluka and seeing her progress in her ability, then headed to his lab as a dark purple crow with a vertical dark eye appeared standing on his shoulder. A naked body of a brown-haired eyeless woman is floating in the middle of the lab with more than 15 scarlet eyes hovering around it. These are the scarlet eyes Yasuo got over the years and the dead Korta clan member Yasuo stole recently. He has been keeping them safely in the locked lab freezer and only got them out using his control domain while he was playing with Aluka. I close my eyes as I walk towards a specific room and I take a deep breath. Hopefully it works without severe consequences, else I will have to choose another alternative. One thing Yasuo found about his domain's range recently is that it's reaching its limits as the progress became incredibly slow once he surpassed the 300 meters radius mark, and it only got slower the higher it goes. Now at the 400 meters mark, it looks like it stopped hardly increasing at all, and this is something Yasuo predicted but didn't expect it to come this fast. He didn't expect his brain to reach its limit so soon. Yasuo's brain capacity when it comes to how much Nen his brain can handle at a second ceased to improve at all a long time ago, since the time he was at Greed Island. That's why he never went back there to use Angel's Breath again, because it became useless. And now, his domain stopped expanding as well, and he attributed that to the most likely suspect. His brain is limiting him, though his genetics are limiting him, is a more fitting description, and that says a lot considering how far his genetics took him. The fact that Yasuo's domain controls core is his brain could either be a weakness or an advantage. Though Yasuo found that as his aura pool gets larger and larger, his domain's range also increases with it, though nowhere as significant as when he increases it consciously, and he needs his domain range to be a little bit higher to increase his future plan success rate more, and this is where the Korta clan Scarlet Eyes come into play. They increase one's physical strength and Nen power significantly, which is incredibly helpful to him. He walked into the room with the body and the eyes following after him, painting an interesting picture. The fully engraved room with a strange device in its middle, the genetic elixir machine. He designed the machine to be able to handle bodies of larger sizes, so it can definitely handle this one. He threw the body and all of the eyes into the upper and larger metal ball after he opened it. Yasuo focused completely with his eyes still closed as he started outputting his dark purple aura towards the machine, with the latter devouring it like a hungry whale. A hunger that didn't seem to cease for hours to come, something only possible with Yasuo's horrifying aura pool that surpassed 300,000 aura units. He changed the tube earlier, the tube in which the liquid will pour, and since the tube needed for such a large body is much bigger than for just one scarlet eye. By the end, the tube became filled with a light red liquid. Yasuo controlled the tube to follow after him as he left the room, with a small tube flying from the freezer towards him. The tube has a liquid that looks extremely similar to the one in the large tube. The liquid is the result of his past experiment using the genetic machine, and it's the result of the scarlet eyes. He poured the liquid into the large tube, then sat down in a meditative position as he started studying the liquid, and it's much more than it seems. Chapter 81. He poured the liquid into the large tube, then sat down in a meditative position as he started studying the liquid, and it's much more than it seems. He created an amplification domain around the liquid while sacrificing most of his domain until his senses expanded to a level small enough to allow him to see the molecule that carries genetic instructions in all living things. The DNA molecule consists of two strands that wind around one another to form a shape known as a double helix, which is what he is observing now. He is observing the DNA molecules of the red liquid, and interestingly the DNA appears to be a little bit different from how it was before going through the genetic device, though the dark energy is still enveloping most cells in its embrace, not letting them go. The change in DNA is the result of the genetic machine, and its function is quite simple: optimization. That's its sole function, though it's quite a bit more complicated than that. After Yasuo got a new inscription a long time ago and studied it, its function turned out to be quite useful and helped in creating the machine quite a lot. The inscription's function is quite simple: it amplifies the already existing function of something else depending on the engraver's intent when inscribing it, but its range of application is too limited and the amplification was negligible. Until he mixed it with the strengthening inscription, which increased its effectiveness significantly. As a result, making the machine ended up being easier than predicted. He just had to inscribe the new inscription with the intent to optimize DNA and also restricting himself to a few conditions, basically making it a Hatsu similar to Greed Island, though much simpler. The optimization is quite significant, especially with the conditions he set. He can only use it up to 7 times and he already used it 3 times, after that it will self-destruct. The consumption is enormous, making it hard for anyone to use it, especially on bigger targets such as human bodies, and the stronger the target the higher the consumption becomes. And these are quite strict, considering it took him months to completely visualize it on his internet and be able to inscribe something similar to a Hatsu, and this is another limiter. He visualized it specifically for a few targets he had in mind, so he knows that it's unlikely to work on things aside from them. It optimizes DNA into a better form and combines DNAs if more than one is available and optimize them to genetic perfection, though the machine is limited by the DNAs it's given. If Yasuo provided 2 level 0 DNAs, then he will get a level 1 DNA or lower, so it follows the rule of 2 trash will only result in a little bit better trash or trash of the same level. Of course, if he provided something better than trash, then the result will obviously change, and he already knows whose the last 4 spots are for. Yasuo ignored the dark energy as he solely focused on studying its DNA, memorizing how it's shaped. Its every detail, and he made sure to check every molecule, ignoring the passage of time, and it took quite a while even with his amplification domain at play. He continued doing so until he put its DNA construct to heart, and only then did he start the next phase. He created a few extremely small arrow eye threads that went through his right eye until they reached the optic nerve and the blood vessels. After which, the threads started circling them with the arrow threads as a guide. Then he instantly applied full force on them, cutting them cleanly, and used his control domain to stop the bleeding. His right eye flew out, leaving a bottomless abyss in its place. It hovered above his hand as a small amount of the red liquid started to surround it. It's important to note that even with how big the body is, after going through the genetic machine, it only resulted in about 500 ml of the red liquid, and this is another limitation of the machine. His amplification domain shrinks to only surround the eye and the red liquid around it. Then the flow of time seemed to flow differently as several days passed, with the eye changing slowly across that time. It started to slowly deconstruct with the red liquid margin with it. The DNA of both the liquid and the eyes changed slowly across the days, taking a hint of the red liquid's DNA and Yasuo's. It kept the Korta clan's optimized DNA that's necessary for the dark energy to work, and giving it Yasuo's DNA to avoid a situation where the dark energy attacks his cells, which is something that shouldn't possible if not for a theory Yasuo has about the Korta clan's ancestors. In his absolute focus, more than 20 days passed before the eye's final form appeared. He waited until his aura regenerated, and at that instant, the dark purple crow standing on his shoulder blinked, and Yasuo instantly controlled the eye back into his empty right eye socket and connected the optic nerve and the blood vessels back. Then started allocating his aura over his left hand, then strikes towards his right eye. Hatsu Violet Rose M equals 1, T equals 0.2. He let his eye heal for a second before creating an amplification domain over his body and just observed how the dark energy behaves and interacts with his cells. There was only a low quantity of dark energy in the eye, but once his blood started flowing into the eye. As he got his vision back, the dark energy started spreading through his body as it seems to infinitely spurt from his eye. It started enveloping his cells, though it didn't attack them. Instead, it consumes his nen continuously. Yasuo felt his nen draining quickly, no showing any signs of slowing down, as he started feeling the horrifying pain spreading all over his body that made even someone like him let a groan as his face spasmed, pain not only from his body but also from his soul. This is annoying. The repercussions are bigger than I thought, but it even affected my soul. Something I can't sense as of yet. Yasuo frowned, sensing something else. Just as I thought, changing DNA has certain repercussions. The higher quality the DNA is, so I'm right, I will need to take a detour when the time comes. If I don't get them, then I'll be as good as dead if I decided to continue on with my plans. But for now, I think I can handle the repercussions. What Yasuo noticed is how the eye he just transplanted behaves, how its cells behave. It started consuming his aura continuously at a rate higher than the dark energy. The new cells seemed to be devouring his nen, satisfying their hunger and coming to life, and it continued to consume his nen for quite a while as Yasuo started to get used to the pain. This is something Yasuo found a while ago. He changed the DNA of one cell of his and the same thing happened. That particular cell started to consume his aura, though the consumption was nowhere as it is now due to the DNA's difference in quality. And if he controlled his aura not to flow into it, the cell starts dying, and even if he feeds it his aura, his immune system will obviously go after it until it destroys the foreign cell completely. The dark energy and cells in the eye basically devoured his aura almost completely, and they still didn't stop as Yasuo just closed his eyes and his face couldn't help twitch, noticing that even after they drained all of his nen, they still continued to consume something else. His lifespan. While he can't exactly sense something intangible like lifespan, he can still feel his body getting weaker and his cells aging much faster than normal. All of the precious happened in the span of a few minutes, and this is the moment the scene changed as Yasuo's right eye socket became empty again, with the eye he constructed still flowing above his hand as if none of the previous happened except his aura is completely drained. Yasuo retracted the dark crow, cancelling the vision ability after noticing that he saw far into the future until his aura was consumed completely. He then looked at the strange eye, letting out a sigh, the beautiful eye with the shiningly silver iris in contrast to its original pitch-black color. The sigh he released was one of relief, since he noticed what he wants to do is doable. He will just have to sacrifice a bit of his lifespan, and he is okay with it since it won't matter in a few years anyway. Once he regenerated all of his aura, he again controlled the eye into his eye socket and started repeating the same previous process, except his bearing seems much more relaxed now. Chapter 82. The sound of rain reverberated through the city as a result of the water droplets making contact with the ground and other things, such as the sound of it making contact with the black umbrella and the sound of a person's shoe stepping on the wet pavements as she walks in the darkness of the night. The person was wearing a silver coat and black pants beneath the coat that's closed tightly. She was wearing black boots with her blonde silky hair tied into a bun knot, hiding the two long scars on her face, and holding another umbrella in her other hand. She continued walking through the streets until she noticed something. People are surrounding her, more than 20 all around, with a particular one that should be their leader. A tall, lean man with neatly combed, dark hair and a sharp jawline. He has thin, dark eyes and wears rectangular framed glasses. He's dressed in a dark-colored suit colored and matching color tie. This is Kenny Wang, the underboss of the Char family. He said in a calm tone, "Finding you alone is too easy, which made us cautious, but not to this extent. You have to just be stupid since you're basically inviting us to get rid of you. Or you're setting up a trap?" Morena remained calm without any change in her expression. "You're going against the code of conduct by doing this, you know that, right? You're also risking the Shiyu family attacking you, so why would you go through with this?" The code of conduct of the mafia families is quite simple: independent attacks initiated by members of a family against another, and the use of guns must first be discussed with the family's boss, who then contacts the leader of the targeted family. The attack is passed off as the unapproved initiative of rogue underlings, and the boss of the damaged family is entitled to request compensation in a guise and amount they see fit and conducive to restoring and maintaining balance. The formal apology of one boss to another generally occurs within 24 hours after the fact, but it is even more crucial that the boss was away from home turf at the time of the attack. Failure to respect the latter rule is sure to result in an all-out war that will end only with the complete extermination of one of the two families. In case of an all-out war, they are only allowed to use their own men and not to hire thugs outside the family as well as from other minor mafia families. Instead of the previous calm tone, Kenny Wang's tone became one of irritation as he said, "You should have thought about that before you went ahead with your plans and cost our family most of its business and territory, and you even killed some of our members. I don't need proof to know the Heil Lee family is responsible for most of this, and I definitely know you're responsible for the incident that started all of this. You either have to be a manipulator or one of your underlings is a manipulator, else how could you control our underline to attack the Shiyu family? You signed your death warrant the moment you've done that. And you don't have to worry about the Shiyu family. It appears they agree with our sentiment of eradicating the Heil Lee family, so we came to an agreement." He didn't seem to mind answering, and he even took his time doing so without taking any action against her yet, and she noticed that as she let out an innocent smile, though amusement could be seen on her face. "You're actually the one trying to stall for time, huh? That's interesting." The man just smiled without taking any action, though all the underlings surrounding her had guns aimed at her until his phone started ringing. "What's the situation?" he directly asked after accepting the call. "It's empty. The whole building is empty. She's probably setting a trap for you since we lost contact with our spies and her family, so watch out for your surrounding. We'll be there soon." Kenny frowned as he made a signal for his underlines. "Unless a number of your underlings are Nen users, whatever you're planning will definitely fail, since you made one simple mistake, and that is judging my strength, so your death is destined." Gunshots sounded the moment he finished talking as all of his underlings started firing at Morena. Morena almost instantly opened the umbrella in her hand and used the other one to cover her back as she focused her aura on both umbrellas, encasing with them with it, which made their already strong defensive power stronger. The umbrellas are something she ordered to be made with a light metal material which gave them the needed defensive abilities and light enough for her to move it around at fast speeds, and they're big enough to envelop her completely. The clanging sound resonated through the street with the bullets not causing damage to the umbrellas at all. Noticing this, Kenny also aimed his gun at her and fired. The difference is that the bullet this time actually caused a small dent on the umbrella. This is the result of using Shu on the bullets and using emission to keep his aura on the bullets, which enhances it. Morena, who is hiding between the umbrellas, narrowed her eyes, noticing that. Then she allocated more aura on the umbrella he is shooting at and continued to be on the defensive side while moving slightly from time to time but never putting her defense down. Kenny frowned even more as he looked around. "No one is coming. I thought she is setting up a trap for me and that other Nen users will surround us, but no one's coming. Just where are the other Heil Lee family members? We even lost contact with all of our spies, so what is she planning? Well, it won't matter if she's dead, but I should let the others know." Kenny sent a message on his phone, then signaled for his underlings to stop firing. "I'm curious, is the former boss of the Heil Lee family dead? Did you kill most members of the family that follows him?" Morena retracted the umbrellas, though she still kept them close just in case. She then looked at him with a smile. "They're all dead. What did you expect?" Kenny let out a laugh as he turned his head, looking at a subordinate next to him, asking, "Son, is she lying?" The subordinate is actually a high-ranking member of the Cha'ar family named Sun Bin, a man with thin, fair hair and slanted eyes. He was wearing a zipper jacket and dark pants. His most distinguishing feature is the rose tattoo on the left side of his neck. he shook his head and said in a bored tone, "Nah, they're dead." Hearing that made Kenny narrow his eyes and asked Morena, "You really expected me to be the only Nen user here? Or you just didn't expect someone from the family to have such an ability?" "Well, it doesn't matter, knowing that they're dead is the most important thing, so thank you for that, and thank you for giving me the time for my ability to work, though it wouldn't have mattered anyway." Morena didn't react, nor did she move from her place as Kenny started focusing his aura above his hand, with it forming a simple black coin. One side of the coin has a plus sign, with the other side having a minus sign engraved on it, plus or minus. He asked, but he didn't wait for her to answer. Instead, he directly tossed the coin up as it flew for more than 2 meters above him, and the instant it started going down he said, "Minus." Morena frowned, ready to change her plans if the ability is too dangerous. She observed the coin spinning in the air until it landed on his hand. "Minus," he announced with a smile on his face. The instant he announced that, the coin started shining for a split second before the plus sign disappeared, and instead another minus sign appeared in its place, making both sides of the coin have the same minus sign, and before Morena can react, the coin appeared in front of her, only to disappear into her heart. And she instantly noticed something that made her narrow her eyes with a hint of relief in them, something they didn't notice. "About 5% of my aura disappeared just like that, and even a portion of the aura I'm already manipulating disappeared as well, though this is good. His ability isn't that dangerous to my plans, but it's an incredibly dangerous, one of the most dangerous abilities if it actually works how I think it does." A gleam of light appeared deep within her eyes, thinking of the implication of such ability as she moved the 2 umbrellas to engulf her, protecting her from the incoming barrage of bullets. Chapter 83. A gleam of light appeared deep within her eyes, thinking of the implication of such ability as she moved the 2 umbrellas to engulf her, protecting her from the incoming barrage of bullets. The underlings started firing once Kenny signaled for them to do so, and what's strange is him not using his ability directly again. Instead, he just stood there with Sundin standing next to him and few underlings surrounding him. Morena was forced to just wait between the umbrellas until Kenny again started emitting the same coin and saying, "Plus or minus?" and tossed the coin up. "Minus." That is the sound of Morena shouting the moment she heard him say that, and that seemed to faze him as he casually smiles. "Ho, well, you guessed wrong, so I don't even have to do anything," as he said that the coin landed with the plus sign on top, and the same thing happened, leading to her losing another 5% of her aura. Losing that much of her aura didn't discompose Morena, in fact, it gave her more information about the ability. A cooldown of 10 seconds. That's too little for such an ability. There must be a condition to start the ability in the first place, something he fulfilled that restrict the ability. He also knows on what side the coin is gonna land on, so he either learned how to toss it to land the side he wants, or his ability lets him know of that information. Also, he can only choose a sign of the 2 once the coin starts going down, and I have all the time before that to choose. She still stayed on the defensive side, knowing it's not time yet, but they're not giving her much time, as Kenny and Sunbin are both firing Nen enforced bullets, which are putting a toll on the umbrellas. In fact, if she didn't continuously move the umbrellas around so that their bullets don't hit the same place, the bullets would have gone through them, but it's only a matter of time. "Minus." That is what she said once she heard the same announcement from him, though this time Kenny raised his eyebrows only for amusement to surface on his face. "Correct, but it's not that easy." Then he continued to say, "Change." The instant he said that, the coin's spinning speed changed slightly, and what appeared when it landed is a plus sign, except something different happened. The coin shined for a split second before splitting into 2 coins. One has only plus signs on it, with the other having minus signs. The plus coin disappeared into Kenny's heart while the minus coin into Morena's, and that triggered 2 different phenomena. Kenny's aura increased while Morena's decreased by 2.5%. Kenny narrowed his eyes, feeling all the increase in his aura. This is 2.5% of her aura? Then her aura pool is actually larger than mine? Just when did she start training in Nen? Or is she just that talented? Well, it doesn't matter. Now that she knows the game is rigid and there is no chance of victory, she should be desperate. Morena just let out a sigh, though only she knew what the sigh is for. The ability only took half of what it took previously, but that percent was added to his aura, and the coin can probably be tampered with by anyone. Then isn't the ability useless against someone like Yasuo? Well, it's an interesting ability, to say the least. Though the chance for the increase to be permanent is low. It's time anyway, I just have to keep my guard against the other Nen user. As she thought of this, she pressed a button on the handle of the umbrellas and started performing a 360-degree circle with the sound of continuous gunshots resounding through the street, though this time its source is Morena's umbrellas, specifically from the end top of the umbrellas. Kenny frowned, not expecting this at all, as he wondered, why didn't she use it from the start? Though that didn't stop him from taking cover with Sunbin, but the other underlings had no time to react, as they just fell to the ground, with most of them ending up dead and a few are severely injured. Kenny looked at this scene with his face twitching, not being able to handle his anger. "You bitch." He was about to lose it only to hear Sunbin say, "Calm down. We need to stick to the plan." That seems to actually calm him down a bit. "She's stronger than we thought, so you won't probably be able to stall her, so just stay back and wait for a chance to use your ability." As he said that, he started walking towards while outputting his aura. "It's been a while since I had to personally fight, but I guess I have to, and just know that the umbrella's bullets are too slow to affect me, so I guess it's time to use your Hatsu." While saying, he again emitted another coin since the cooldown ended, only to hear a small laugh coming from her and another sound from behind him, making veins pop on his head. Morena let out a laugh. "I'm quite weak, so I tend to avoid close-ranged fights, and it appears I don't have to today either, as the fight has already ended." As she said that, Sunbin, who was taking cover a little bit behind Kenny, fell down to the ground as blood flowed down his mouth, and the same happened to all the surviving underlings a few seconds earlier, something Kenny didn't notice. Kenny looked at all of this happening around him with blood coming down his mouth and ears, while also feeling a little bit lightheaded. His eyes started widening, comprehending what's happening, and looked towards her as desperation started appearing in his eyes as he started running towards her. Just when did she poison everyone here, and even Sunbin didn't notice? The poison on everyone appears to have taken effect at the same time, so it shouldn't be the former boss of the Heil Lee family's ability. "I lost." That is what he thought as he started feeling his body following him and his speed decreasing, allowing Morena to easily evade his attack as her left hand turned completely black and gently touched him. Morena looked at the scene around her with a happy smile on her face as blood started mixing with rain, painting the wet pavements all around her red. She elegantly lifted her hand as a pitch-black gas started coming out of all of the bodies and from the ones that are just passed out, and flowed into the completely black left hand. The hand became normal only after it absorbed all of the dark gas. "My compatibility with the ability is nearly perfect," she remarked, seeing all the chaos around her. Morena sent a message to her subordinates through her phone, then started walking away with the damaged umbrella stopping her from getting any more drenched by the heavy rain. Not bad. Until she heard the familiar voice with the sound of water droplets falling on the umbrella, stopping and her widening her eyes as an even happier smile surfaced on her face. She turned around, letting the umbrella go, and hugged the handsome man standing behind her. The man was wearing completely black clothes suiting his black hair, with a silver earring on his left ear fitting his pale face as he smiled, hugging her back. Morena just relaxed, closing her eyes in his embrace, and as she opened her eyes, she noticed they appeared in a completely different place. She looked into his eyes only to notice something that stunned her. She lifted her hand, caressing his face, specifically the area around his right eye, as she asked with concern and killing intent spurting in her eyes, "What happened to your eye? Did someone do this to you?" Yasuo started caressing her silky gently with amusement in his eyes as he answered calmly, "Nah, I can see clearly, it's just the result of a successful experiment." What they're talking about is Yasuo's right eye, which looks completely different than what it used to be. The usual pitch black iris became white, making it harder to differentiate it from the sclera around him. Even his eye pupil turned into a silvery color in contrast to his left eye, which didn't change, remaining completely black. Morena let out a sigh of relief. Just don't do anything too dangerous, but if you do then just let me know, okay? Yasuo narrowed his eyes hearing her saying that. That's a bit rich coming from you. Your plan was good but there are too many variables and the risks are quite high, so care to explain why you went with such a plan. Morena was at first confused hearing the first sentence and it hit her only after he completed what he had to say as a mischievous smile surfaced on her face. Chapter 84. A gleam of light appeared deep within her eyes, thinking of the implication of such ability as she moved the two umbrellas to engulf her, protecting her from the incoming barrage of bullets. The underlings started firing once Kenny signaled for them to do so, and what's strange is him not using his ability directly again. Instead he just stood there with Sunbin standing next to him and few underlings surrounding him. Morena was forced to just wait between the umbrellas until Kenny again started emitting the same coin and saying, plus or minus? And tossed the coin up. Minus. That is the sound of Morena shouting the moment she heard him say that, and that seemed to faze him as he casually smiles. Ho, well you guessed wrong, so I don't even have to do anything, as he said that the coin landed with the plus sign on top, and the same thing happened, leading to her losing another 5% of her aura. Losing that much of her aura didn't discompose Morena, in fact, it gave her more information about the ability. A cooldown of 10 seconds, that's too little for such an ability. There must be a condition to start the ability in the first place, something he fulfilled that restrict the ability. He also knows on what side the coin is gonna land on, so he either learned how to toss it to land the side he wants or his ability lets him know of that information. Also, he can only choose a sign of the two once the coin starts going down, and I have all the time before that to choose. She still stayed on the defensive side, knowing it's not time yet, but they're not giving her much time as Kenny and Sunbin are both firing enforced bullets which are putting a toll on the umbrellas. In fact, if she didn't continuously move the umbrellas around so that their bullets don't hit the same place, the bullets would have gone through them, but it's only a matter of time. Minus. That is what she said once she heard the same announcement from him, though this time Kenny raised his eyebrows only for amusement to surface on his face. Correct, but it's not that easy. Then he continued to say, change. The instant he said that, the coin's spinning speed changed slightly, and what appeared when it landed is a plus sign, except something different happened. The coin shined for a split second before splitting into two coins. One has only plus signs on it with the other having minus signs. The plus coin disappeared into Kenny's heart while the minus coin into Morena's, and that triggered two different phenomena. Kenny's aura increased while Morena's decreased by 2.5%. Kenny narrowed his eyes, feeling all the increase in his aura. This is 2.5% of her aura? Then her aura pool is actually larger than mine? Just when did she start training in Nen? Or is she just that talented? Well, it doesn't matter. Now that she knows the game is rigid and there is no chance of victory, she should be desperate. Morena just let out a sigh, though only she knew what the sigh is for. The ability only took half of what it took previously, but that percent was added to his aura, and the coin can probably be tampered with by anyone. Then isn't the ability useless against someone like Yasuo? Well, it's an interesting ability, to say the least. Though the chance for the increase to be permanent is low. It's time anyway, I just have to keep my guard against the other Nen user. As she thought of this, she pressed a button on the handle of the umbrellas and started performing a 360-degree circle with the sound of continuous gunshots resounding through the street, though this time its source is Morena's umbrellas, specifically from the end top of the umbrellas. Kenny frowned, not expecting this at all, as he wondered, why didn't she use it from the start? Though that didn't stop him from taking cover with Sunbin, but the other underlings had no time to react as they just fell to the ground, with most of them ending up dead and a few are severely injured. Kenny looked at this scene with his face twitching, not being able to handle his anger. You bitch. He was about to lose it only to hear Sunbin say, calm down. When need to stick to the plan. That seems to actually calm him down a bit. She's stronger than we thought, so you won't probably be able to stall her, so just stay back and wait for a chance to use your ability. As he said that, he started walking towards while outputting his aura, It's been a while since I had to personally fight, but I guess I have to, and just know that the umbrella's bullets are too slow to affect me, so I guess it's time to use your hatsu." While saying, he again emitted another coin since the cooldown ended, only to hear a small laugh coming from her and another sound from behind him making veins pop on his head. Morena let out a laugh. "I'm quite weak, so I tend to avoid close-ranged fights, and it appears I don't have to today either, as the fight has already ended." As she said that, Sunbin, who was taking cover a little bit behind Kenny, fell down to the ground as blood flowed down his mouth, and the same happened to all the surviving underlings a few seconds earlier, something Kenny didn't notice. Kenny looked at all of this happening around him with blood coming down his mouth and ears while also feeling a little bit lightheaded. His eyes started widening, comprehending what's happening, and looked towards her as desperation started appearing in his eyes as he started running towards her. Just when did she poison everyone here, and even Sunbin didn't notice? The poison on everyone appears to have taken effect at the same time, so it shouldn't be the former boss of the Heil Lee family's ability. I lost. That is what he thought as he started feeling his body following him and his speed decreasing, allowing Morena to easily evade his attack as her left hand turned completely black and gently touched him. Morena looked at the scene around her with a happy smile on her face as blood started mixing with rain, painting the wet pavements all around her red. She elegantly lifted her hand as a pitch-black gas started coming out of all of the bodies and from the ones that are just passed out and flowed into the completely black left hand. The hand became normal only after it absorbed all of the dark gas. "My compatibility with the ability is nearly perfect," she remarked, seeing all the chaos around her. Morena sent a message to her subordinates through her phone, then started walking away with the damaged umbrella stopping her from getting any more drenched by the heavy rain. Not bad. Until she heard the familiar voice with the sound of water droplets falling on the umbrella, stopping and her widening her eyes as an even happier smile surfaced on her face. She turned around, letting the umbrella go, and hugged the handsome man standing behind her. The man was wearing completely black clothes suiting his black hair, with a silver earring on his left ear fitting his pale face as he smiled, hugging her back. Morena just relaxed, closing her eyes in his embrace, and as she opened her eyes, she noticed they appeared in a completely different place. She looked into his eyes only to notice something that stunned her. She lifted her hand, caressing his face, specifically the area around his right eye, as she asked with concern and killing intent spurting in her eyes, "What happened to your eye? Did someone do this to you?" Yasuo started caressing her silky gently with amusement in his eyes as he answered calmly, "Nah, I can see clearly, it's just the result of a successful experiment." What they're talking about is Yasuo's right eye, which looks completely different than what it used to be. The usual pitch black iris became white, making it harder to differentiate it from the sclera around him. Even his eye pupil turned into a silvery color in contrast to his left eye, which didn't change, remaining completely black. Morena let out a sigh of relief. "Just don't do anything too dangerous, but if you do then just let me know, okay?" Yasuo narrowed his eyes hearing her saying that. "That's a bit rich coming from you. Your plan was good, but there are too many variables and the risks are quite high, so care to explain why you went with such a plan?" Morena was at first confused hearing the first sentence, and it hit her only after he completed what he had to say as a mischievous smile surfaced on her face. Morena was at first confused hearing the first sentence, and it hit her only after he completed what he had to say as a mischievously charming smile surfaced on her face. She whispered to his ear with her arms around his neck, "I thought that if by any chance I got hurt to a certain degree, you'll have to use your ability to heal me, hence canceling the purple mark on my chest. But too bad, it appears that my plan worked perfectly." Yasuo arched his brows and just shook his head and analyzed with a calm tone, "This isn't funny. It doesn't matter what the rest of your plan is, it will still be a good plan at best. The more variables there are, the worse the plan is, so your plan isn't that good, as the only reason you won is that the enemy's plan has more variables than you. If they used you in the middle of the fight and saw the black gas coming from the manhole covers around, then your plans would become void, meaning your death." Hearing all of that made Morena's face twitch as she just let out a sigh. Acting as a distraction is risky, but it's also the best way to get things done quickly without many hurdles, and I was confident in my ability to a certain extent, and especially confident in my ability to retreat if needed. Yasuo started pinching her cheek as a smile came back to his face. I guess I should give you some more lessons on how to be cautious. 101 huh? Then his mouth locked hers in an intimate kiss as she tightened her grip over his clothes, clinging tightly to him while letting out a small moan. Please do, she whispered in the middle of what turned into a passionate kiss. Suddenly her phone rang, making them halt the kiss. She looked at the message, growing for a split second before inquiring, "You sent the underboss and the other NEN user somewhere, right?" To which Yasuo nodded, bringing a sigh of relief out of her. "I teleported them somewhere secure since I noticed you left them alive. Their abilities are quite interesting after all." "You sent you underlines to get them?" wondered Yasuo. Morena nodded. "I kept a few on standby in case I found the underboss's ability useful and if it's possible to take him alive." "Well, you should have a lot of things to do, so want me to take you somewhere?" Yasuo asked in a casual tone. "They should be able to handle the rest, so let's just go to my new house," responded Morena, after which she informed him of the address. "Did you add a condition on the black gas ability?" wondered Yasuo while sending an arrow-eye thread towards the location to teleport there. He sat down on the roof side with Morena on his lap as she just relaxed with her head resting on his shoulder. The ability is quite good if used correctly, though the former holder only used it as a fatal poison that usually kill normal people in a few minutes. At least that's in my case. I don't know how long it takes for him. But there are weaknesses. It will take much longer to affect a NEN user, and it's extremely hard to control, so it's easy for one to avoid it, and to a certain extent, NEN offers a bit of protection against it, so yeah, it's deadly against normal people but weak against NEN users. Morena continued to further explain, "So I added another function for the ability. I can mimic any poison as long as I consider it as such, with a few restrictions. To mimic a poison I have to inject a certain amount of it on myself and cannot take the antidote until 15 minutes past, and the black gas will return to its normal state once 24 hours pass, which is a good addition because of my proficiency in transmutation. The poison ends up being much stronger than normal." Yasuo remarked absent-mindedly, "Well, the ability is quite suitable for you." Morena lifted her head, looking at him with concern. "Are you okay? You seem distracted." Only to notice his silvery eyes' iris turning shiningly scarlet as she looked at the beautiful sight before her, bewildered. Yasuo just caressed her head with a teasing smile on his face. "Don't worry about it, I'm just trying something and get used to my new eye colors. Also, it looks cool, right?" Morena nodded absent-mindedly, noticing a change in his presence, something she wouldn't normally notice if not for his presence becoming relatively apparent once his right eye turned scarlet. She looked at the scarlet shining eye, casting an illusion upon her, an illusion of a flowing river, one made of beautiful scarlet blood. Instead of feeding the land around it, it absorbed the life force of all that's around her for its own benefit, except two scarlet fully grown trees that stood tall within its shadow. "It is graceful. Beautifully so." As she said that, she went for a kiss with passion apparent in her eyes. Yasuo gladly responded, noting how she responded to seeing the eye in contrast to how others behave seeing it. They floated slightly as a portal appeared beneath them, which they went through without breaking out of the kiss. "Is quite simple, really," Morena finished explaining to Yasuo after a long tiring night. She is lying her head on his lap, lazily relaxing, while in front of Yasuo is a floating laptop as he just read the files opened and listened to Morena explaining her plans. Well, the plan's already unfolded and its effect is already spreading through the city, the whole empire even. The boss of the Cha'ar family and an illegitimate half-brother of King Nasba Hwee Guo-ru was declared dead, though his body wasn't found. Traces of his blood and a picture of his decapitated head was posted on a certain website from an unidentifiable source. Yasuo smiled with interest in his eyes. "Irulan's ability ended up being quite interesting. His loyalty to you made it possible, huh?" Morena lazily answered, That's why I decided on such a plan. I knew that the Cha our family's underboss is actually the strongest in the family from the former boss, but I didn't know by how much, nor was I able to get any information about his ability, so I decided to take him on myself. The Cha our family boss's cautiousness is already quite known, or in this case, it's cowardice, and I knew he'll never take the front line, so I sent all of the Nen users in the family to what I thought he'd be, and I left the rest to luck. Yasuo shook his head. Luck, huh? Well, you won't have to leave anything to such a thing anymore, as I'll stay here for a while. I really need to teach you a lot of things. Her eyes brightened the moment she heard that, as she jumped into his arms, throwing her arms around him and kissing him passionately, then asking to make sure. Really? How long? Yasuo arched his brows, looking into her glittering black eyes that couldn't hide the obsession within. He started stroking her hair with a gentle smile on his face as he responded with a simple answer, yeah, a year or so. He then asked, wondering, are you that happy to having me around you all the time? Hearing that seemed to release some kind of shackles placed upon her, as she let out a long sigh of relief while hugging him more tightly than she ever has. She seemed to want to deliver a response solely by how much she is clinging to him, as she rested her head on his chest, listening to his strange heartbeats. Faint heartbeats that rarely sounded, and if it did, it only did so to declare his detachment from what common human sense is. She seems to want to dive into his chest more than she already did. As a content smile painted her beautifully shaped face, she started whispering with emotion she never imagined she'd have, a tone of hope and love, but most importantly, fear. You have no idea just how close I want to be with you all the time. I can't not think of you all the time, and I'm always scared of losing you. Just what'll I do? I feel like I have not interested in spreading chaos anymore, though I still feel relief doing so from time to time. You are my obsession now, and it was so easy for you to make it as such. You're just that different, so you can only imagine how I feel when you're away, when I don't feel the peace I feel when you're around. I do things that give me some time of peace, such as leading the family, or just killing random people, but it's always short-lived. Chapter 85. You're just that different, so you can only imagine how I feel when you're away, when I don't feel the peace I feel when you're around. I do things that give me some time of peace, such as leading the family and manipulating everything I can, or just killing random people, but it's always short-lived. She lifted her head, looking into his eyes, clinging to him even tighter. Hope left her eyes as she looks at her new source of one, and Yasuo just listened, not interrupting nor feeling like doing so. You are my new goal, so you can only imagine how it feels when a goal is so beyond reach, and it's the feeling you give me, like at some point of time, if you just feel like it, you'll disappear without anything holding you back. I can only feel at peace when you're within my reach. Am I getting crazier or getting saner? Can you tell me? After all, you're the one who made me like this. Who gave me life, but all the things that come with it as well. Yasuo didn't stop caressing her hair through all of that, through all of the varying emotions appearing on her face, as he let her let all of her pent-up emotions. He seemed thoughtful hearing all of that. Was I careless? No. I just had important things to do, and time won't wait for me, as the wheel will continue moving whether I like it or not. I can give more time to other things when everything is done, but... A frown surfaced on his face as he comprehended the feelings he feels seeing her like this. But it certainly doesn't feel good seeing her like this, and I don't like that, so what can I do to solve the problem? A solution satisfactory to me. Yasuo kissed her gently, then looked into her eyes. I don't know if you're getting crazier or saner, that's something for you to know, but I'm okay with either as long as it's you, and I'm sorry for being so irresponsible, and I'll try to mock. He wasn't able to finish what he is saying as she shook her head and brought her finger up, shushing him. I'm just letting my feelings out. I don't want you to change anything if you don't feel like it. I just want to be close to you all the time. Yasuo just smiled, hugging her even tighter. You don't have to be so uncertain. If there is something you don't like, then just let me know. I'm at fault here, so as I wanted to say, I'll make it up to you. Morena didn't react, hearing that, as she just buried her face on his chest, hiding whatever expression she's making from one's eye, but not Yasuo's, as he gently kissed her head. For now, just relax until it's time. All the sound heard from her is a small mumble as she dozed off. After thinking about things for a bit, Yasuo activated ability of his as his eyes turned completely white. He closed his eyes, just relaxing and watching a particular scene through his arrow-eye threads until Morena's underlines are done doing the job. Suddenly a small portal appeared in front of them, only to enlarge, becoming bigger enough for them to go through as he gently woke Morena up. Okay. Yasuo picked her up in his hand, then gently washed her face, waking her up from her stupor. She asked, still clinging to him, "Did I sleep for long?" "Just for about 2 hours. Also, your underlines finished taking the headquarters back and finished cleaning everything, so let's go." Morena nodded, hearing that. They walked hand in hand through the portal, appearing in Morena's office as Yasuo warned. "I'll stay here for a while, so this might not be a problem, but I'll remind you anyway, if you have any plan regarding the Kaken King, then cancel for now, because while I don't know how strong he is, I know his ability is too dangerous, and don't target any of the princes, as that'll bring no benefit whatsoever." Morena narrowed her eyes, hearing that as she sent a message through her phone. She then asked, wondering, "What's his ability?" Yasuo shook his head, explaining, "I don't know exactly what it is, but I know it has to be dangerous because of a certain information I have, a particular tradition in the Kaken's royal family in which only the strongest survive to become the king, and Natsubai achieved that, so be cautious." Morena took his words of caution to the heart as she notices her phone vibrating for a second. She raised her brows, looking at a message she received. "Prince Tsaradnik wants to meet me, and he wants to do so now. He is already on the way." Yasuo sat down on the chair, with Morena taking a seat on his lap as he started stroking his earring with a thoughtful expression. "He is quite smart, so he should already know that once you took over, he became just a source of money to us without any returns for him. We'll see if we can work out a deal, since his political support should help a little bit." They waited for a while until a door-knocking sound was heard. "Enter." And so 3 people entered the room, with Arillan being in the lead, with a respectful smile on his face, seeing her while ignoring how Morena is sitting on the man's lap, in contrast to Cashew, who still finds someone like Morena having a lover strange, while Luini just didn't care about such a thing. "Boss." Each respectfully bowed. Morena with a smile on her face as she complimented, "Good job, I'm glad I could leave the rest to you all without any worries." Arillan bowed again, "I'm glad to be useful, and this is my new family, so being dependable is the least I can do." Luini arched his brows hearing what Arillan said, though he didn't care much, as he said, "Nah, thank you. It was fun," while Cashew just nodded with a smile on her face. Morena smiled, though there is something in that smile only she knew, as she contemplated something. "Should I just kill him? Luini is just too much of a variable. He is loyal now, but once he doesn't get the chaos he wants, he will probably rebel. Or am I being too cautious? No, Yasuo should be much more cautious than me. Well, I'll decide what to do when he finishes creating his ability." Suddenly she heard Yasuo whispering to her ear gently, "You can do as you see fit." That brought a gentle smile to her face as she nodded. She ignored the confused glances from the 3 and instead inquired, "Luini, how are the casualties and the results?" Luini took a step to the front and started recounting what he already memorized. "We only lost 26 underlines, with 2 of them being Nen users, and half of those, we lost against the Cha, our family's boss, and as you already know, we were successful. The remaining people we lost against the Shiyu family when taking our territory back. Though they didn't offer much resistance, with most of them retreating once the news reaches their family, so we were able to take back most of our territory, and are still the biggest family in size." Cashew started explaining directly after he finished talking, "We still have contact with one of our spies and their family, but there is still no news on whether Prince Luzurus will drop his support or not, but I think the family is falling apart, and the Shiyu family are already taking the chance to expand as well. They also announced that the code of conduct is void from here on." Morena nodded and looked at Arillan, signaling for him to start. Due to their boss's death, The shares of their legal business fell significantly, so I took the chance and used a significant portion of our funds to take over it, and we started the recruitment process as you ordered. Irulan got the signal as he reported calmly. Morena nodded and ordered, "Start the forceful expansion and make use of all the new recruits. Also, Irulan, you will choose 3 loyal underlines and send them to me for the awakening process. Cashew, Prince Tserednik will be here in a while, so welcome him and guide him here. Also, let everyone know, if you see anyone from the Shiu family then kill. It will be an all-out war from now, so keep that in mind. Go, we'll have a meeting later." Once everyone left, Morena asked something she's been wondering about. "When I became the boss, I had a meeting with Tserednik to start a new contract and couldn't help but notice something. He isn't an end user. Why is that?" Chapter 86. Once everyone left, Morena asked something she's been wondering about. "When I became the boss, I had a meeting with Tserednik to start a new contract and couldn't help but notice something. He isn't an end user. Why is that?" Yasuo shook his head. "I'm not sure, but perhaps there is a criterion before the princes can learn Nen or even know of its existence. Still, this is just my assumption." Morena just closed her eyes, resting her head on his chest as the clock ticked and time passed. "What do you think?" wondered Cashew, specifically asking Irulan, who is walking next to her. "About what?" he asked back. "You know, about the boss's lover Yasuo." Irulan looked thoughtful for a second before saying, "I'm really not sure, but what I'm sure about is that the boss chose well. His identity should testify to that." Cashew arched her brows and just shook her head. "I don't know why I expected a different answer from you. But do you think he is genuine towards her, or if he is just using her?" Irulan responded to the question directly, as if he already thought about it before. "I don't see why someone coming from such a family would use such a method to get close to someone, and I don't see what he benefits by doing so except her ability, but he will need her consent for such a thing." A glimmer of light passed in Cashew's eyes as she asked, "What'll you do? If she gave her consent? If she decided to give her life to him?" There didn't seem to be any change in Irulan's expression and his normal formal tone. "You know what I'll do, or at least try to." Cashew got the confirmation she needed. Then they each left on their own way, with Cashew heading outside of the building and just waiting until a limousine parked close to the building. The car's doors opened with the driver and several bodyguards exiting, then someone else exited and they surrounded him, protecting him. The person walked in Cashew's direction, already knowing who she is. "Lead the way," he said, interrupting whatever she had to say. She didn't mind as she just nodded and led him to Morena's office. He made a signal for the bodyguards and they seemed to understand what it means, as 4 were left outside guarding the door and only 2 went inside with him. He narrowed his eyes, coming into the strange scene in front of him, the scene of Morena sitting on a man's lap with no care the world, the scene of her peacefully closing her eyes on the man's chest with the 2 looking harmless. Only he could feel his surprise, considering how he perceived her personality in their last meeting. "Is this the same person I met a while ago? She gave me some disgustingly poisonous vibes previously, but now she looks so normal. Is this just a facade she's putting in front of that man, and if so, is she putting the facade to manipulate him? So that should mean he is the one she gets all of those funds from. I'm really confused. Is she expecting me to play alone or what?" The person took a seat comfortably, with the bodyguard standing behind him paying attention to Yasuo's right eye, judging that he is probably partly blind. "Boss, Prince Tserednik has arrived," announced Cashew, sticking to formalities before leaving the room. Prince Tserednik Howe Guoru is the 4th prince of the Kakan Empire, and the son of his father's first wife Unma. He has long fair golden hair and a thin mustache. He has a rather muscular body. He is currently wearing a black tuxedo. And there is a lot hidden beneath the serene smile and courteous mannerisms he shows, a smile that didn't leave his face, seen Cashew leave as he wondered in his mind. "No guards, huh? Well, if I kill them here I will just end up dead before leaving the building, so it kinda makes sense." But she's not even cautious, in contrast to the last meeting where she had guards with her. "Welcome, we meet again," stated Morena without moving from Yasuo's lap with a casual tone, and continued to say with a smile. We usually contact through phone, so imagine my surprise when you said you're coming personally. The goods we sent you were satisfactory, right? It's not a facade. The previous poisonous air around her came back, well, it doesn't matter, thought Serednik before saying with a formal smile, the goods were good as always, so there is no problem with that. I'm just here to talk about our cooperation. If it will continue or not, since I noticed that your family got another benefactor, which I presume to be you, right? He looked at Yasuo as he finished talking. Yasuo smiled, introducing himself, Yasuo Zoldyck, her fiancé, and as you stated, the new benefactor of the family. Serednik nodded at Yasuo with bafflement apparent in his eyes. Hearing the name, he still asked for a confirmation to make sure. Are you by any chance of the famous Zoldyck family? To which Yasuo nodded, making Serednik narrow his eyes. He is from that family of assassins? If he really is, then the likeliness of her manipulating him is quite low. After all, the best assassination family wouldn't be called as so if it's that easy. Now I have to take into consideration whether he is manipulating her. Well, I will think about it when I get more information about him. It's an honor to meet you. I'm Serednik Guoru, the fourth prince of the empire. Serednik introduced himself as per formalities, and Yasuo nodded in return. While Morena looked surprised, as she didn't expect him to still want their cooperation to continue, which is welcome to her considering he provides quite a bit of support for mostly catching the goods and delivering them to him, and that especially applies to things that are up for auction that interests him. Don't be surprised, I can see the potential of the family, especially after the recent events, so I'll support it fully, and I expect some benefits in return. Aside from the usual delivery of the goods and keeping it a secret, I will need your help in the future, which is in your best interest considering all the political connections I have and the support I can get from the royal family, so what say you? Serednik directed that question towards them both as he observed their expression carefully, only to hear Yasuo answering, we accept, though don't expect us to do something that might put high statue members in jeopardy. If I deemed what you request too dangerous, then we won't provide full help, but we can offer minimal assistance. What say you? Yasuo finished by asking a question with a knowing smile on his face. Once Serednik noticed Morena not objecting to what Yasuo said, he stood up, fixing his black tuxedo with a professional smile not showing what's hidden beneath it, and stated, I look forward to working together, and I will keep contact through the secure line discussed previously. After which, he left, leaving only Yasuo and Morena in the room as the latter asked, why did you accept? While his support will be helpful, it's not that necessary. While the family needed him previously, we don't anymore. No one will risk going after us considering there will be too much to lose than to win. Yasuo looked at her with amusement, asking instead, why not? We don't have anything to lose but much to win. Being too independent isn't always a good thing. Using what's available when available is something you should learn, and from what he said, he is probably preparing for when the succession begins. He wants to be the king, so he is ready to get rid of the rest of the princes if needed, so he chose us as a backup just in case. Morena raised her brows, pondering all he said. If that's really so, then we might need to keep our involvement minimum. From what I can see in the goods he requests, he is a psychopath that won't have any care for human life whatsoever, so if he really became the king, then I'm pretty sure he will try to get rid of us, and he will use mass destruction weapons if the situation demanded as such, so I will need to change our development plan. Yasuo started patting her with a particular smile on his face, one of pride, as he praised her. Beautifully thought, and yes, he will definitely do as you said, but you don't have to worry about it. That won't happen, and this is the time to tell you about something important, something Kakin's first king conjured, and a tool that has my interest, the Seed Urn. Chapter 87. A large room, a large octagonal and well-made oak table, several chairs of the same type though only two are under use. Sitting on the head seat is a corpulent man with prominent wrinkles in his cheeks, small eyebrows, and a tuft of fair hair sticking out at the top of his head. Too long, Parallel scars run horizontally across his forehead. A frown could be seen clearly on his face, signifying his mood while looking in a certain direction. This is Unyer Longdao, the boss of the Shiyu family. On the seat on his right sat a lean man with long, fair hair, straight except for the locks on his forehead. The locks curl to the left, which is almost parallel to his forehead and next to his ears, which are wavy. He has thin, long eyebrows that curve upwards and round eyes with clear-colored irises and remarkably small pupils. He wears black makeup that circles each eye and extends a tip towards his nose. He was wearing a white suit designed with pink spots all over it. He is wearing the suit over a dark pink shirt. This is Hinrai Bigandufno, the underboss of the Shiyu family. They're both looking in the same direction at the laptop place on the table, with a man appearing on its screen, a bald man with squarish eyes and bags under them. His appearance resembles that of a Chinese monk. He appears to have no eyebrows, with lines departing from the bridge of his nose arching over his eyes. Above each of them are 3 dark dots in a column, with the biggest at the base. He has a dark pencil mustache, a very square chin, and elongated earlobes. This is Zhang Leihui Guoru, the third prince of the Khakan Empire and the son of his father's third wife, Teng Zhaoli. He is also the benefactor of the Shiyu family, which explains the current situation. I already know the general situation, so just tell me your solution, Zhang directly stated without any change in his expression. Unyer stroked his chain as he told what he thinks is the best plan or plans. There are 2 plausible plans I see, one much riskier than the other. Well, one is not risky at all. First, we can use all our forces and attack forcefully, getting rid of the family once and for all, but there are too many unknown factors for such a plan, and that makes the chance for us to get exterminated much higher, and quite likely considering their past achievement, this plan is extremely risky. To which Hinrai the underboss nodded and started saying on his own accord, we definitely won't use this method no matter what. Zhang frowned but nodded nonetheless, knowing there is another method. The other method, what is it? Unyer answered simply, the Zulks, a family of assassins and the best in the world. The problem is how much is needed to hire them depending on the danger of the target, and well, the Heil Li family is quite dangerous. I'm sure the Zulks will investigate the family and come to the same conclusion, then they'll decide the price, and this is where we need you. I'm sure we won't have enough money to fulfill whatever price they'll request. This time, Zhang's face couldn't help but twitch, but still thought about it for a while before saying, it'll depend on how much they ask. If I agree, you should know that the contract between us will have to change, since this is on you. He was about to hang up directly before hearing something that brightened his eyes. There is something else about the family that we can perhaps take advantage of. One of them accepts a different kind of payment. The payment is owing him a favor. If we choose him, then we will owe him, and we can't refuse whatever request he asks unless it leads to our death or has similar results, or if he asks for money. So in this case, we won't have to pay anything, but one can argue that we will pay more. You should also know that if we go with this option, we will have to fulfill the favor, since if we refuse, the possibility of our death will be quite high, certain even, explained Orion thoroughly with a serious air around him. Zhang frowned, thinking about the implication of such a thing before saying, absolutely not, that's too dangerous. Anyway, I will contact you later. And only then did he hang up the phone, leaving the two in an air of silence and solemnity. Ha 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 ha. This is quite funny. That is the sound of Yasuo letting out a small laugh, looking at his phone. Not his normal one, but the special Zoldyck transmitter. What's so funny? Lazily wondered Morena, who is clinging to Yasuo as always. Clinging to him seems to be a usual occurrence across the past few days since she let out her feelings. Amusement is apparent in Yasuo's eyes as he explained, well, apparently the Shiyu family are trying to hire the Zoldyck family to exterminate the Heil Li family, and the father just let me know. While saying that, he sent a message back telling them to refuse the job, and since they already meet Morena and know what he is up to here. Still lazily clinging to him, Morena suggested, perhaps I can use that if you accept the job, I can think of a trap in which they will definitely fall to, since I'm sure they'll trust the Zulk's reputation. What do you think?" Yasuo shook his head. "It's not needed, and I won't be responsible for hurting my family's reputation, nor will they agree to such a thing. If the situation required it, I will just use brute force to get the job done, so you have me as a backup plan. Just think of plans and gain experience as you lead the family." "Is this a test? Observing how far I can go without you helping too much?" again wondered Morena. "Not really. You said you want to find a hobby, and I want to help you find one. And being good at your hobby is necessary, especially considering what kind of interest you have." Hearing that made her let out a small giggle as she hid her face on his chest. They stayed in silence for a while before Morena remembered something, saying, "About the two prisoners, I already used my ability on the underboss Kenny, and I'm planning on taking his ability or aura, but I don't know about the other one called Sunbin. In the fight, he was able to tell I'm saying the truth, which leads me to believe he is a specialist or a conjurer, and I didn't see anything conjured, making it more likely he is a specialist, and this is the weakness of my ability. So what do you think I should do?" Yasuo started stroking his earring, thinking about it for a bit. "Perhaps you can recruit him, else just use your ability on him. I will make you a specialist as well in the future, but it will take a while for that to happen. It's up to you." Morena's eyes couldn't help but widen hearing such a thing. "You actually can?" To which he nodded. "Then I'll use my ability on them. It's safer this way," stated Morena, while Yasuo closed his eyes as a strange eye opened on the dark purple crow. A vertical eye appeared, spreading on most of the crow's head. The dark purple crow that rarely leaves Yasuo's shoulder, the branch on which he stands. The only difference is on the type of eye or eyes it has: normal eyes or the pitch black vertical eye, or as he calls it, the vision eye. The eye blinked. He opened his eyes again as a portal formed in front of them. Yasuo stood up and said, "I'll come back in a bit." Then he disappeared into the portal and appeared in a traditional Chinese bedroom. A bed cover colored in orange with yellow patterns on them as specks of sunlight shining through the well-designed window built with some kind of light-colored wood. Flower vases all around, giving a lifelike color to the room, and the whole room looked alive with all the exquisite patterns everywhere, but well-designed, giving the room a sense of balance and warm air enveloping everyone within. The peacefulness changed not when he appeared, nor did it change when the two people in the room narrowed their eyes looking at the uninvited guest. Yasuo elegantly nodded with a serene smile on his face, introducing himself in a strange way. "Nasabai Hwei Guo Ru, the ruler of the Kakin Empire. I'm Yasuo Zoldyck, it's nice to meet you again." A calm, composed look never left Natsubai's face, fitting of a ruler, as he simply observed Yasuo with a weird smile on his face. He seemed to be harmless, not putting his guard up at all, and instead of going by formalities introducing himself, he however asked, "We have met before, okay?" Short pause. "So the YouTube overlords doesn't get mad. So hi YouTube algorithm, we love transformation. Okay, back to the story." Chapter 88. A calm, composed look never left Natsubai's face, fitting of a ruler, as he simply observed Yasuo with a weird smile on his face. He seemed to be harmless, not putting his guard up at all, and instead of going by formalities introducing himself, he however asked, "We have met before?" He observed the dark purple crow on Yasuo's shoulder while asking that, and the other person in the room did the same. Nasabai, the ruler of the Kakin Empire, an obese figure with narrow eyes and a top knot. He has long, curvy eyebrows, eyelashes, and a mustache. He wears traditional, ornamented clothing that is adorned with jewels, which emphasizes his status as a king. Next to him, and the one who is putting his guards up as he watched Yasuo carefully, Nugi, a very petite man of elderly age. He has well-combed hair, a square jaw, a bulbous nose, low cheekbones and long earlobes. He is wearing a black suit, a white dress shirt, with a lace tie. He is the personal butler to King Nasabai and his princes. Yasuo nodded but didn't explain any further. Instead, he just asked, "Anyway, I'm here to make a deal. I want to borrow the seed urn for a few hours, then I will return it safe and sound. What do you think? Instantly the air in the room changed as Natsubai's composed look changed into a solemn one, with him standing slowly with his face twitching slightly, and asked in a chilly tone that affected the temperature in the room, decreasing it significantly, or so the people in the room felt. How do you know? Does anyone else know? Why would you come here knowing the outcome? His eyes shined with a dangerous glint as he waited for answers. Answers he didn't get, as Yasuke just slightly smiled, giving Natsubai more questions than answers. I can see it. In the Nen beast surrounding you, and the problem is that it's inside it, and I don't want to risk it getting destroyed, which will waste all of the efforts I went through. And suddenly the crow blinked. Again. You don't want to do that, it's useless, so just stop and think about it a bit. I'm but a harmless scientist, and I just want to take a look. For a few hours, warned Yasuo with amusement apparent in his eyes, and his tone remained as casual. Natsubai narrowed his eyes, wondering, you can see it? And you can see the future? What they are talking about is the strange beast standing behind Natsubai with 4 of its lean small arms surrounding him. A huge creature composed of 2 lateral sections with 5 limbs in each, which are long insect arms ending in human hands. It has a head in the central part of its body that resembles a human, that has an elongated shape, long hair, and 2 enormous ears. Its mouth is upright, starting from the height of the eyes to the chin, leaving a long tongue out. However, the most notorious part of its body is the bumps that completely cover the rest, those that resemble women's breasts, a strange Nen beast shaped based on his personality, or what's called a guardian beast. Yasuo didn't answer. Instead he asked again, so what do you think? Natsubai frowned, getting all the clues he can in one thing that he obviously noticed: Yasuo's eyes. His right one is completely white while the left one seems to normal except for the scarlet iris shining brightly, though only Yasuo knows that even though the eye looks normal, he still can't see through it when using vision or arrow eye. Natsubai started contemplating a few things while observing him carefully, thinking about what his course of action will be. If he really can see the future and was able to see what I can do and still standing in front of me casually, so either it's really useless as he says or he is bluffing, but I know who he is. He is one of the Zulks who visited the Empire some time ago and never left, or so the books says, since he never took any airship, not any transportation vehicle out of the country, yet he appeared in the Hunter Association, so I kept an eye on him, yet he appeared inside my room. If so, how can he counter my abilities? He narrowed his eye. You stated that it's a deal, so what are you putting on the table? Yasuo directly answered, nothing really. Natsubai's face couldn't help but twitch, seeing the audacity of what person is asking for in his room without any price whatsoever. Only to let out a laugh a few seconds later. Unfortunately for you, I can only take the seed urn out for a certain time before the succession contest, else there will be consequences, so even if you are able to kill me, I still won't bring it out. And you're only human, so there is only so much you can do against the Empire, so if you do anything that endangers it, I will have to use some more dangerous measures, so just go away. The crow blinked and Yasuo narrowed his eyes, thinking about it for a bit. What? A letdown. Too bad I couldn't ask last time. Well, we'll meet again later. As he finished saying that, Yasuo opened his eyes that returned normal, with the crow's vertical eye disappearing and taking its place is what looks like 2 normal eyes. Well, that was disappointing, he stated. What was? Wondered Morena, whose head is resting on his shoulder as if he never moved. Yasuo just shook his head, inquiring instead, nothing. Anyway, is the lab done? Morena didn't persist any further as she answered, it shouldn't take long. It mostly finished and the tools you ordered are already inside. Yasuo nodded and the clock ticked. Tick. Tick. And darkness fell, the darkness of the night. Time has passed and everyone went on their own business until night arrived, and so they heard the calling of bed as Morena closed her eyes, drifting into the land of dreams with her head resting on Yasuo's chest, exhausted after messing around for a while. It wasn't long before Yasuo opened his eyes and activated his control domain, gently leaving the bed without waking her up and controlling her gently to sleep comfortably. And well, nothing evades his sight in his domain as he leaned slightly and kissed her forehead, assuring, "I will be back by morning." He only teleported away after noticing her body relaxing, hearing that. The clock ticked again and time passed until Yasuo reached his destination. The sound of traffic could clearly be heard, and so is the sound of people, though rare. His destination is in the middle of a specific city. He walked casually through the streets in the middle of the night and avoided any security cameras or anything that can put him in the crime area. It should be exactly a few miles down from here, thought Yasuo once he reached a certain spot in the city. He looked down at the ground beneath him with his domain seen far below it, a domain surpassing 400 meters radius. Though something weird happened as his right eye shined in scarlet light, his domain's range started expanding until it slightly surpassed the 500 meters mark. Only for the domain to start receding. And receding until the domain only enveloped a range of 2 meters around Yasuo, with the transparent purple color of the amplification domain all around it, forming a transparent purple ball around him. Yasuo closed his eyes, focusing completely as everything in his amplification seemed as if frozen. His clothes were taken off without him making any movement as he stood there naked. His molecules started vibrating. His every molecule vibrated in the same new quantum frequency as he gently started falling down. Falling through the ground as if he doesn't exist, as if he is intangible. He fell slowly deeper and deeper beneath the ground, with darkness around him though that didn't block his vision, as he could clearly see the dirt around him and the soil molecules that passed through him, not seeming to be aware of his existence. He can see the wet soil around him once he reached a certain depth, and he can smell it. The smell of nature. Once he deemed that he reached his destination, he started manipulating all the soil molecules around him and inside him to keep his domain bubble completely clean, leaving him solely there with the air being his companion. Not bad, the consumption is significant and the focus needed is enormous, but it's still available method. He cancelled his amplification domain and instantly an extremely small portal opened and closed almost instantly. Though something passed through it and he controlled it into a small test tube, then tightly closed it while using an amplification domain to make sure none of them were spread around and only left once he made sure, disappearing into another portal, leaving in a way different than he came. Chapter 89. Adapting. Changing. Evolving, these are all part of life. There are other pieces of the puzzle that affects and control them: psychology, environment, body. Those parts could be something as small as adapting to a new neighborhood or a new culture or certain circumstances, and depending on their degree, the adaptation process can turn into a changing process. The mind will force one to change as it experienced something that gave the most important of the body the need to change, but we humans have something that can bypass needing such an experience. Our will. If we will something enough, we can do it. The question is, how long will it take? Will we be able to live to see our hard work bear fruit? If we will a change, then we can make a change, we can change ourselves. The circumstances around just help to make the change easier, but it's not always to our benefit. Our mind will turn us to the monster if the need arise, and this isn't something rare. Monsters walk within us and most of us are unable to tell monster from humans. The monster is in all of us. The question is, did one face the situation needed for it to be set free, stretching its claws to the world? Monsters truly exist. Most faced a certain event in their early livelihood that changed their life upside down, the death of someone close to them or a certain trauma they can't get over. Too many things can create monsters. This doesn't apply to just humans, this applied to everything that has emotions, that has desires, that has free will, and all it takes is an event to take place triggering what's hidden in us. But what is the one who willingly and forcefully made the change to be called? The one who looks down on needing such an event to change, to leave the visible spectrum of colors becoming something else entirely, going as far as touching on the evolution process. An anomaly perhaps? No, we can already see an anomaly. and it's still a long way from becoming like such. So what can such an existence be called? The unknown? A monster shoe just touched the ground with his other feet's shoe doing the same, dark brown shoes, perfectly tailored brown pants with a few lighter colored straps, and a jacket of similar style with a black shirt underneath it, and finally to complete the suit is a bright yellow striped tie. He has dark brown hair flowing down to his neck level and brown iris complementing his choice of attire. The person has a black hand case in his hand holding tightly to it. Following closely behind him is a man pushing a luggage cart with some travel cases on it. He is wearing the airship's uniform as he asked, "Sir, where would you like me to put these?" The person didn't reply, getting the employee to try to ask again only to be interrupted hearing the following, "Mr. Pariston, I'm Lynch Fulbacco. I was sent to welcome you to the Kakan Empire by the family boss. If you can please follow me this way." The one who welcomed him is a young woman with shoulder-length fair hair styled so as to spiral into a tube-like shape on the back of her head, with a few locks from her forehead falling on her shoulders and two shorter ones framing her face. She has big eyes and short, thin eyebrows. Her attire consists of a sleeveless dress with a high collar, black kitten heel shoes in contrast to the white dress. This is Lynch Fulbacco, a high-ranking member of the Shiu family. As she welcomed him, several other people in suits walked towards the luggage cart and carried all of the travel cases to a limousine close by, while Pariston cheerfully smiled and requested as per formalities, "Lead the way please." She nodded and led him to the car, though he still kept the briefcase he had with him close to him, not letting go of it at all. The car drove through the bustling city with the two having a small conversation, though it's mostly Pariston inquiring for information. Pariston Hill exited the vehicle while ordering the driver and the rest of the family's henchmen insulating to the travel cases he brought with him, "Take my stuff to the Noriel Hotel. I already booked a room there and let the employees know about your arrival, so just deliver them to the room." Lynch and Pariston walked through the metallic building as the cheerful smile never left his face, nor did the black briefcase leave his hand. Lynch opened the door for him but didn't enter, leaving only 3 people in the room: Orion, the family's boss, and the underboss of the family, Hinrai. Pariston casually took a seat at the other end of the table facing Unyer, with the latter wondering, "Why is a 3-star hunter, among other things someone of your stature, is here to hell?" Sparkles seemed to surround Pariston as he interrupted Unyer, making the latter's face twitch hearing what he had to say. "I'm sorry for my rudeness not introducing myself the moment I entered the door. I'm a Pariston Hill, a 3-star hunter. I'm extremely honored to meet you." His brown eyes seemed to shine golden while saying that. Unyo nodded, not losing his composure, and continued what he was trying to say. "Why are you here? Why are you interested in hell?" Pariston brought his hand to his chest, performing a soldier's salute as his face turned serious, yet his tone remained as cheerful as ever. "I've heard about the hideous crimes a certain mafia family is doing, and my good heart couldn't help but force me to give my hand out for the people in need." His tone becomes more passionate as his speech went on, and at this point, even Hinrai's face couldn't help but twitch. Unyo took a deep breath and asked again, ready to cancel the meeting lest he loses his composure, "What do you want?" Though surprisingly, Pariston answered seriously. As seriously as he can get, not allowing anyone to see his intentions. "We have a common enemy. I'm sure by now you figured out that there is someone helping the Heil Lee family, and you should already know who he is, considering he didn't try to hide it, and this is why your request for the Zolik family was rejected." Unyer frowned hearing that and looked at Hinrai, who shook his head. Then he questioned, "How do you know? How do you know that we made a request to the Zolik family? Only 3 people know on our side, and I don't think the Zolik family would let such a thing out." A bright smile surfaced on Pariston's face, getting the vital information he needed. "I didn't, you just told me." At this point, their faces started spasming, with Unyer being on losing his composure, seeing the audacity he has to play them in their home turf, only to hear the following. "And this tells us something about him. He cares about his family and its reputation, so perhaps we can use that." Hinrai narrowed his eyes hearing that. "We can use that? How exactly? By going after a family of assassins?" And the best in the world at that. A creepy smile painted the monster's face, a smile that weirded out even the two mafia bosses in the room. No. It's easier than you think. What I want to do is to break his mind, and I found that he has several weaknesses which we can make use of. He stayed silent for a second, letting them comprehend what he is saying before adding, I know one of his abilities, and it's a close-ranged one, but he is a 3-star hunter, so it's likely he has another ability or more. For now, we'll work with what we know by making a request to the Zoldyck family and setting the target as someone in the capital right next to him, increasing the likeliness of him accepting. Hinrai questioned, not convinced. The plan seems too fragile and simple, and how are we going to benefit from such a thing? It sounds more like gaining a dangerous enemy. You mean an enemy you already have? It's only a matter of time before he exterminates your family, so why not take the chance no matter how small it is, and the plan is only for getting information. His eyes sparkled as he stated, I'm your only chance. Let me know what you think once you've thought it through. Then he picked up his briefcase and left, heading to his hotel room. He placed the briefcase carefully on top of a glass table, not opening it. Instead, he started opening all the travel cases he had the Shiyu family's henchmen deliver. And he noticed something. The cases have been searched, and while they did a good job hiding the traces of their actions, someone as thorough as him will notice even the smallest changes. Puristan picked up one of his jacket suits carefully, looking at every cranny of it, noticing a small clump. Strangely, that brought a bright smile to his face as he cheerfully talked to himself, that's just rude, now isn't it? This is a monster. He was born due to a certain event in his childhood which affected his mentality and shaped what he is to today. Someone who loves to love because he also loves to destroy what he loves. The desperation on his victims' faces is something he enjoys, it's the fuel that keeps him going. Chapter 90. Strangely, that brought a bright smile to his face as he cheerfully talked to himself, that's just rude, now isn't it? He went on to take a shower shortly after as he thought to himself, well, now I have to change my plans. The gears of fate turned to his liking, and the rain followed by clouds appeared as he predicted, or so his perception states. You see, perception is a wondrous thing, is infinite and beyond, with one perception being different from the other. From bugs and generally any animal to microorganisms and perhaps organisms even smaller to intellectually beings such as humans, and when it comes to sentient beings, the difference in perception becomes quite apparent. We have differences so small yet so big that create a difference in our perception in life, experience, in everything. We are who we are because each of us is different, else we will just be a puppet of the same conscience with no free will. Those small and big differences make one choose a different course of action than others, or perhaps similar, just with a different thought process. People are limited by their own perception, with their only salvation being imagination, and that's why one will never really know what a god's perception is like unless one became a god. But we use our imagination. We expand our perception, coming upon the vast expense of possibilities. Yes, possibilities are what they are. In the end, it all depends on a few simple things, with the most important being information and how one processes them. In short, Puristan's perception is that everything is going as he wishes, but is that truly the case? We have another case here, a person whose perception surpasses Puristan by far. He can see much more, and he sees that everything is going as he wishes under his absolute control. Yasuo processed the information sent to him through Zoldyck's personal transmitter as he walked into his lab. His new small simple lab. And he accepted the assassination request casually, as if not suspecting anything. The new lab appeared to be quite simple, with only 2 work tables and several test tubes on them. Taking most of the lab's space is a glass chamber with several individuals in it, though whether they're alive or dead is a debate to be had. What could be noticed is the small blue taint over the individual's skin, and their lack of clothes did little to hide it. Here could also be noticed a few large tubes close to the chamber with what looks like a human and several different animals inside. Most of the individuals seemed dead, as no movement could be seen from them. Not even their hearts moved, signifying that they belonged to the darkness beyond in eternal slumber, the debate could only be made for one of them. The same blue taint, albeit a bit darker, as he moved around munching something in his mouth. Human meat. Sometimes he eats his own meat, other times he eats from the bodies around him. He looked alive in contrast to the unmoving bodies around him. Every time he bites from his own flesh, it only takes a little bit of time for the wound to heal with little to no bleeding to be noticed. Until a purple bubble manifested around the individual, moving as the person moved, enveloping him at all times as Yasuo observed what he wants to observe. He observed the individual at a molecular level, but molecules aren't his only observation target as he looked at the wondrous scene inside the person's body. On every molecule, there are those strange organisms that clung to the molecule like they are their life, their soulmates, and to a certain extent that is exactly what they are to each other at this point in time. The cells produce the fuel the organisms need to work and produce more of such organisms themselves, and they produce something else, something special. An astonishing amount of stem cells, the cells responsible for regeneration, giving the person a healing factor strong enough to regenerate limbs. The fuel of the organism appeared to be some kind of energy the cell produces, Nen, and the person's cells seem to be producing it bountifully without stop, with the amount being producing increasing slowly as time passes, allowing the person's body to function normally in contrast to the bodies around him. The drained bodies that looked as if the faint blue asking is attached directly to the bones, not even a speck of blood to be seen, nor was there any Nen to be noticed yet. They're still alive. And well, the zombie organisms are still inside of the drained bodies, crowding together in a state of slumber. Not consuming Nen and in return not producing anything. This is in contrast to the other moving person who is infinitely producing Nen, as Yasuo wondered to himself. I wonder if Morena will gain their ability once she absorbed him, though that's only viable assuming it actually an ability, not just a natural function of the organism, and that the person has the ability since he is the target and she can't select a target like microorganisms. Yup, it's unlikely. Yasuo then walked into another chamber connected to the glass chamber. This is the decontamination chamber, allowing passage to the glass one. A safety measure Yasuo put in place as to not allow the zombie disease from spreading outside. He wore a hazmat suit before going inside the glass chamber, which is another safety measure. The organism seemed to be attracted to Nen, so he prefers not to use Aranen as a protective. In fact, even the dark purple crown is no longer on his shoulder. He walked into the chamber, getting the attention of the walking individual inside, with the latter walking towards him producing some kind of noise, nothing understandable, as Yasuo noted. Still alive but might as well be dead, having those things inside really drives people crazy, consuming one inside out. The itch will follow them at all times as they feel their whole being getting consumed inside out. Or it's just part of the organism. He walked toward the other test table in the lab, one built inside the glass chamber with all the tools inside a locker next to it. The locker opened and from it, several small freezers opened as well. A few test tubes flew to him, each with different things inside. The other individual in the chamber made no further movement, remaining frozen in its place, though he can still move his mouth, making some weird noises. Yasuo observed all the test tubes with his amplification domain, checking the results of his experiments as he started noting what he observed to himself. Sequence number 36, self-sustain, failure. The organism is unable to operate without Nen and dies few minutes without it. Unless it entered a slumbering state, but there is a limitation, it needs to be attached to a cell to enter this state, with every cell of the body being a viable option. In this state, a rare phenomenon happens in which the zombie organisms are able to share the same cell as a slumbering home, with the only thing limiting this is the cell size. Once he was done observing that particular tube, he activated Violet Rose, erasing it with the piece of rotting flesh in it getting erased as well, and only then did he start observing another tube. Sequence number 56, specialized artificial zombie, semi-failure. Changing the organism's DNA even a little bit results in big changes, with a high chance of it dying immediately and always dying after a certain time frame passed. The organism's functions only get worse, not better, as if something is limiting it from evolving any further. Or the changes that I make are actually bad contact to what the data shows. Then he erased the tube. Sequence number 175, Genetic Behavior Limiter. On the brink of success, albeit at the cost of giving most of my time to this experiment. I was able to set a genetic limiter with the purpose of limiting the number of zombie organisms, make them fall into slumber always when unneeded, stopping the continuous NEN consumption and only away when a certain trigger is activated. But there is a problem. I set a mother organism whose DNA I change to my suiting, and once I infect some or something with that organism, it starts to produce more of such organisms with the same DNA, and they by themselves do the same until they don't anymore. Once that process happens a certain amount of times, the organism's DNA starts reverting to what it once was, as if evolving to its primal form, which cancels all the coding I did to its DNA. There is a solution though. As he noted this, Yasuo erased most of the tubes, leaving one that has a red liquid in it as a small piece of blue flesh flew in front of him with an amplification domain surrounding it. He started modifying the DNA of one sole zombie organism to the sequence he already memorized as one of the large tubes outside the chamber opened with a monkey flying into the decontamination chamber, then to him. Before he did anything though, a sniper rifle appeared beside him with a portal appearing to his right, one small enough for a bullet to pass through. He aimed and shot. Then he sent a message, "The mission is done." Chapter 91. Before he did anything though, a sniper rifle appeared beside him with a portal appearing to his right, one small enough for a bullet to pass through. He aimed and shot. Then sent a message, "The job is done." Only then did he turn his attention to the monkey floating next to him and manipulated the zombie organism to the inside of its mouth and waited for about a minute before injecting the red liquid into the monkey, with the latter being frozen in the air, not being able to offer any resistance. Then he started observing the monkey at an atomic level with his amplification domain, another organism programmed exactly to my liking, to do what I programmed it to do. A predator of another predator that'll put a leash on the zombie organism as they clung to them, just like zombie organism clung to cells. And what's better option is there that's equally as safe and useful than bacteriophage, as in bacteria eater? Bacteriophage, or simply phages, a type of virus that infects bacteria. Its form consists of an icosahedral, 20-sided, head with a tail, an icosahedral head without a tail, and a filamentous form. Yasuo observed as the zombie organisms spread, with the mother organism birthing more and more, who by themselves started producing more, spreading through the monkey's body, and Yasuo just watched patiently as the light of the bright moon shone upon the building. He watched as several bacteriophages clung to a zombie organism, starting to infect it, which lead them to reproduce since the necessary conditions were met. That is strange, considering it needs to introduce its genome into the host cell cytoplasm, and utilizes the ribosomes of the host to manufacture its proteins, which in return allows it to reproduce, yet it still can do the same thing, with the difference being that the host is the zombie organism. This is a result of Yasuo's modification. The zombie organisms can produce stem cells, so it's only natural it has similar functions to cells, though that's not the main function of the phages. After his modification, their main function is removing certain genetic sequences from the zombie organisms and adding new ones if needed, to make sure the genome of the mother zombie organism remains intact, just like Yasuo wants it to be. And he continued watching as the gears of fate turned, gears he created, gears he controlled. A future of his design. He created a wall using some spare glass walls in the lab, isolating the monkey from the other infected people, allowing nature to take its course. Well, it can't be called nature anymore, since the process he orchestrated is anything but natural. He continued on his research journey, locked in his lab, with Morena coming by once in a while and staying with him in his lab or in hers, which is close by. He was absorbed in his research, as if not aware of the secrets going around the city, the events taking place, the names being uttered, with his name being one of those, as Periston looked through all the information he got. The bullet came from the sky exactly above the target going through the center of his head, and it was found that it's a sniper rifle bullet, so just as I thought, he can fly or he can teleport, and he probably doesn't have a long-range ability. He also didn't use the ability of the purple lines, so either it's solely a close-ranged ability or he just didn't use it for some reason. Puristan closed the document with a still bright smile on his face, not allowing anyone to see what's behind the curtain. In the end, I got nothing I don't already know, but this makes it much more interesting. And that helps us how exactly? That only makes things worse and much harder to do anything against him. That is the sound of Hinrai, who is sitting at the other side of the table, and next to him is Unyer, who seems to be in contemplation. That just tells us that he can probably escape. But the others can't, specifically the Heil Lee family's boss and his sister. We just have to stall him for a bit and we win. Unyer questioned, how do you know his sister is in the city? Well, I happen to have a few useful pawns. Birds that chirp music to my ear, so I know quite a lot. Mysteriously answered Puristan, making both of them frown, uncomfortable with the situation, with the number of variables skirting all around them. Unyer questioned further, the only one that should be weak is his sister, while Morena should also be on our level, so I don't see what cornering them would do since we don't know her ability, which is a huge risk, so even if we stall him, it will be useless. And that's assuming we can stall him, since you can't help or you will break the hunter's rules, so yeah, the plan is useless. As Unyer finished talking, he noticed the bright smile never leaving Puristan's face, as if he knows something he doesn't. You're not planning on using explosives, right? Puristan nodded, no hiding it from them. Don't worry, I used my connections to get just a little bit of explosives. Just enough to destroy a few buildings, so it should do the job, and well, no one will know who is responsible, so you guys should be safe. And don't worry, I will just use it to threaten him and only pull the trigger if he failed to meet my demands. Unyer narrowed his eyes and exchanged a glance with Hinrai before saying, you demands, huh? You know the risks of using explosives, as if the Empire found out we're responsible, we'll simply get exterminated. This is one of the hidden rules, so whatever it is you want to do from now on, we don't want to know about it, and we won't have any contact from now on since you seem to have everything ready. Puristan didn't disagree. Instead, he demanded, knowing how much they need this. Almost everything. I just need you to talk to your family's benefactor and tell the Heil Lee family's benefactor not to interfere no matter the result. Of course, tell them this only after I'm done, and you also can't interfere until 24 hours passed after the incident. They nodded, not objecting, as Puristan left, leaving them in silence until Hinrai broke it. Either he is a psycho or he has a vendetta against the Zolks. He seems to really want to break him and not as interested in the Heil Lee family as the Zoldyck. His goal from coming here, since he is so desperate to such a degree, risking his life. After all, if his actions were to go public, even a 3-star hunter like him won't escape the consequences. Unyer agreed. We'll wait the 24 hours and meet his demands, as it's too dangerous to betray him. Let the royal family have their suspicions, but that's just it. As long as it benefits him, I'm sure the third prince won't mind. But keep an eye on the surroundings and have everyone search the entire building just in case. The sound of footsteps sounded through the hallway as the leather shoes made contact with the solid ground beneath them repeatedly. The sound of multiple footsteps as Cashew leads him towards a certain room, a room where Yasuo is waiting. Alone, with a peaceful expression on his face, not smiling, nor can it be said to be emotionless. Simply an unreadable expression, as he took a sip of coffee while also gently stroking his earring, and only he knows what's on his mind. Until the door to the room opened, with Puristan entering and Cashew closing the door, leaving them alone. Puristan Hill, it's an honor to meet you. I'm sorry for not congratulating you for becoming a 3-star hunter earlier, I had a lot of things to do. Puristan introduced himself with a smile as he observed Yasuo carefully. Yasuo nodded, not changing his expression. Yasuo Zoldyck, please have a seat and don't worry about it. Puristan sat down as silence enveloped the room, with none of the two saying anything. he just looked at Yasuo with sparkles in his eyes as if trying to see what's beyond the curtain or if there is any. Yasuo arched his brows before getting back to his contemplating, not paying Pariston any more attention. He just took a sip of coffee before saying, "I have some free time, so I'll wait for a bit. When you're done with your childish game let me know, just don't take too long." Pariston smiled, brightened, not offended at all. Instead, he started talking with what could be said to be a complaining tone. "I really wanted the game to go on for longer, but it really got ruined. That feeling where I want the game to be longer, but I also know if it's too long it will become too boring. But well, ending the game a few minutes after it started with fireworks sounds interesting. Don't you think?" Chapter 92. Pariston smiled, brightened, not offended at all. Instead, he started talking with what could be said to be a complaining tone. "I really wanted the game to go on for longer, but it really got ruined. That feeling where I want the game to be longer, but I also know if it's too long it will become too boring. But well, ending the game a few minutes after it started with fireworks sounds interesting. Don't you think?" Yasuo took one last sip of his coffee and shook his head. "That entirely depends on the game and the players. And on my mood." "And what do you think about this particular game? It's fun, right? All of the variables involved, the unknown that makes you wonder what comes next, and looking forward to the endgame, paying no heed to whether you lose or win." Yasuo again raised his eyebrows, stating, "I believe you're talking about yourself." "Yes, but are we really that different?" "No, we're the same, it's just that we have a different passion." "We're the same, you know that, don't you?" In contrast to his previous cheerful voice, this time he talked in a soothing tone as if he really believes in what he says. And only at this point did a smile appear on Yasuo's face, one of amusement. "Yeah. No, we're nothing alike, you give me the vibe of a manufactured commodity. And while everyone is to a certain extent similarly manufactured by the events around them, by their experience, but even among the manufactured commodities you feel like a high-level one, and that's not a compliment. Hopefully, you understood what I mean." The smile on the monster's face slowly receded. "You're kind of annoying," and he wasn't able to finish what he had to say since Yasuo interrupted him, asking, "Tell me, why are you here? Do you have so little to do coming here just for me? And going through all the trouble? Is it worth it?" With a face still devoid of emotions he answered, "It's quite simple really, I just felt a little bit bored, and Netero didn't want to tell me anything important about you even after I asked repeatedly. That was kind of annoying." He stayed silent for a few seconds and frowned. "I suddenly feel even more bored. Yeah, I really don't like you." By this point, he appeared to be talking to himself as he looked at Yasuo, looked at the boredom apparent at the latter's face, which only annoyed him further. "I'm part of a certain group and I volunteered to test you, but well, it appears it's just not worth it. Do you have an emotion manipulation ability by any chance?" Yasuo just shook his head. "I have no interest in such ability." A gleam of light passed in Pariston's eyes before saying in an emotionless tone, "Anyway, the test is quite simple. All you have to do is to choose between 3 options, and note that if you don't choose, all of the options will be triggered." While saying that, Pariston placed 3 small detonators on the table close to Yasuo. He added, "I believe you got the gist of the situation. The one to your left trigger the bomb in your house where Morena and your sister are currently, I believe. The one in the middle trigger the bomb in the Heil Lee family's headquarters, and let it be known that each of the bombs is capable of destroying several buildings similar to the family's headquarters in size, and if you'd like we can change the place since we're in the headquarter, but we'll have only a few minutes to do so. The last one is the simplest of them and the one I'm hoping you choose." Only now did a bright smile came back on his face as he cheerfully explained while pointing to his heart area, "It's here. Beside my heart, so choose." Nothing that came out of his mouth seemed to faze Yasuo as his expression didn't change one bit. Instead he offered, "How about a deal? If I get rid of your boredom and possibly for a while you'll owe me, how much you owe me depends on how much my decision entertains you, so what do you think? Stars seemed to ignite the dormant volcano in them as they shone brighter than ever before, the stars within Pariston's eyes, as he responded with anticipation in his voice, "Please do," yet he didn't confirm whether he accepted the deal or not. Yasuo didn't mind as he simply lifted his hand and touched the detonator to his left, then pushed, making Pariston's eyes widen, only for Yasuo to slowly lift his hand again and gently place it above the middle detonator and push. At this point, even Pariston was confused by his actions, but Yasuo didn't stop there as he again gently touched the last detonator and pushed. Yet no explosion sounded, not from Morena's house that's close by, not from the building they're in. Nor did the man in front of him explode, taking him out with him. After all, he did say that the bomb is beside his heart. What's this detonator really for? Wondered Yasuo, getting Pariston out of his bafflement as the latter's eyes lit up, thinking of all the possibilities for how the situation actually went, making assumptions as to what he doesn't know and what lead to this strange situation. You didn't actually think the bomb is actually beside my heart, did you? The monster asked back, instead, to which Yasuo answered, "Of course I didn't. I made a few assumptions and I just want to make sure." "Well, it's boring to die this way, so of course, I didn't do such a thing. Instead I left it to some rude people, quite rude and unlucky." Cheerfulness could be noticed in his voice, though whether it's faked or not remain unknown. He added, "When did you know? And when did you transfer the bomb, and most importantly, where did you put them? Or did you just defuse them?" Yasuo gently stroked his earring, noticing it's faintly shining as if waiting for the fuel to the fire to the woods, waiting for him to set it on fire with but mere words, a light only he can see. "You said you liked the unknown, so perhaps you'll have a better time if it remained unknown until you solve the mystery, and you owe me one." And so the faint star brightened as the earring shined even brighter until Yasuo stroked it one last time, reverting it to its normal state. Pariston nodded, standing up while saying, "I believe someone with your line of interest would want to go to the Dark Continent, so someone will contact you at some point in time, then you can decide on whether you want to join or not. After all, the more people the better, especially people that will be useful." Then he left, leaving Yasuo to his own thoughts. He is weirder than I thought, going as far as going through all this trouble and risking his life. I'm sure dying was within the possibilities in his mind, and most importantly, above 50%. This is quite interesting, and as he thought of this, Yasuo let out a relaxed smile and faintly brushed his earring. Checkmate. Pariston slowly walked out of the building with a cheerful smile never leaving his face. He enters his car, specifically the backseat, and told the driver, "Airport." Slowly the cheerful smile started receding into the dark abyss beneath it, showing what's truly behind the curtain, showing what he is really feeling at the moment. He turned his head slightly, looking through the window while thinking to himself with an expressionless expression on his face, one that didn't manage to hide the uncomfortableness he is feeling inside. "I don't like him at all. It feels like nothing was within my control, like everything was within his, as the gears of fate turned to his liking. Yet I don't know the how, the why, the what. Just what was his goal? This was supposed to be a question he will have to ask as he dances on my palm, yet I'm asking the said question and I don't even know if I'm dancing on his palm." The gloominess apparent in the brown eyes, as well as the strange scene he is seeing through the window, as the car moved far away, getting away from the buildings that hid the scene behind them, a simple scene of dark smoke far away flowing to the sky. So far away his ears haven't picked up the sound when the explosion happened, his eyes saw no fire as it's so far away even the small buildings hid what's beyond them, but he can see it. He can see that the explosion isn't the result of just one bomb of his. No, it's more, perhaps all of the bombs were brought there. Well, except the one he put there himself, declaring the extermination of the people he deemed rude, yet that didn't get rid of gloominess in his eyes one bit. In fact, it only further ignited it as he let out a sigh. One that didn't escape the anomaly's eyes. Chapter 93. October of the year 1996, the world witnessed the happening of a strange event. Well, it's specifically the Khakan Empire that witnessed a terrorist attack, one rarely seen, especially considering it took place in the capital, yet the terrorists were never found. Even with how much attention the empire gave to finding the ones responsible, none were ever found. And that declared the end of the Shiyu family, leaving only one mafia family in the empire. A family that took the chance to take over the leftover legacy the other family left, and honoring their name by becoming the sole ruler of the underworld of the Khakan Empire, becoming a force to be reckoned with. And even with all the suspiciousness the empire has that they're the ones responsible, it's still just that. A suspicious. Especially with all the support from a certain prince, though, that in itself got opposition from two other princes whose rage never died down. After all, they lost an important ally while he gained a much stronger one. The Heil Li family from that time on continued to be a financial force on top of simple brute force. The family's rise to power was in the simplest terms magnificent, which are the results of several pieces lining together. The necessary funds to expand, the necessary manpower which became available as more and more people joined the family, meeting the requirement even with how strict the family in accepting new people, loyal and useful, and most importantly extremely talented high-ranking members, and that especially extends to the three of Arilin, Cashew, and Luini. At the center of all of this is the leader of the family, the one that put the pieces together, creating a solid foundation ready to devour the world around it the second a chance became available, Morena Prudo. Of course, there is the man behind the scene, though he didn't do much in the overall expansion. Instead, he went on his experimentation addiction while also spending most of his time with Morena and Aluka, leaving only one time. Even then, he only left for a few hours to Greed Island, bringing the Queen Piece with the end goal of getting the Kind Piece for another checkmate. And so we're in the month that represents both endings and beginnings, the beginning of a particular season that represents death, old age, pain, loneliness, despair, or an end, as well as renewal, rebirth, and hope, December. The phone rang, specifically the Zulk's personal transmitter in Yasuo's pocket. He answered, hearing his father Silva Zoldyck directly say the following. "I need you to do me a favor. I have a job, but I'm not sure if I will be able to do it alone, since I already failed once because someone interfered. Also, if you accept, I will need you to get here in less than an hour, so what do you think?" Yasuo arched his brows as he started stocking his earring. With a smile appeared on his face. "Okay, but you'll owe me one. Call me when you reach the Yarbia continent, specifically Torikosh City in the United of Suherta. And I activated the signal so you'll know where I am." He hanged up after he said that, leaving Yasuo with a thoughtful expression, though it didn't last long as a portal appeared in front of him which he went through. And that's not the only portal he went through, as not even a minute passed before he appeared on the Yarbia continent. This is due to the numerous arrow threads, or as he prefers to call it, the web network, a network of countless threads connecting to all the known continents, allowing him to create portals to every continent in seconds. But he placed the threads through the bottom of the ocean, so he appeared at the coast of the continent and flew towards the meeting place. Torikosh City, a city that rivals Yorknu City in size but nowhere near it in popularity, for one simple reason: the same thing it's known for. The city that reigns, which simply refers to the fact that it rains in the city and around it most of the year, and the only reason it reached such a size is its proximity to the Enrica continent and to the capital of the United of Suherta, one of the V5, but most importantly, the abundance of sea life near it. It's also called the fishing capital of the world and is famous for having the largest port in the world. Yasuo gently landed on one of the buildings in the city. The heavy rain sounded through the city as the relatively large droplets fell all around, making the city wetter than it already is, as puddles of water could be seen everywhere, but the city was designed strictly to keep it working under such conditions. The drainers perfectly placed everywhere, trying to absorb all the water around them, trying to extinguish the puddles of water everywhere, yet the rain seemed to think otherwise, raining endlessly, creating water in place of what has been absorbed, creating a sort of equilibrium. The dark crow on Yasuo's shoulder seems to look everywhere as it started flying around him with 3 threads connected to it. The same ones that are connected to his upper back forming a triangle. Then the crow started flying high into the sky with Yasuo's right eye turning completely white and his left one's iris shining scarlet. Then he called his father informing him of his arrival. This is another use of the Zolk's personal transmitters. They can track each other through a signal they emit which the other transmitters can detect, though they leave it mostly inactive since the possibility of someone tracking them through it is there no matter how small the chance is. I'm here. On the roof. That's fast, wait for a minute. Though only a few seconds passed before Silva appeared after opening the door to the roof. They walked close to each other and hugged for a second before Silva said, "It's been quite a while." Yasuo nodded slightly. "You know. Have been strolling around." Silva let out a loud laugh with a cunning glint in his eyes. "You definitely did. You know, when you refused to become the family. I thought you will rarely take any assassination jobs, only taking them when you need funds for your projects, but you take missions all the time all over the world, more than anyone in the family. And well, that's surprising." "Well, I can. So why not? And it's a good thing," stated Yasuo while stroking his earring as the faint clanking sound reverberated through the roof. "It is. It definitely is. Do you know that they call you the Vanisher? Due to all of your targets vanishing without a trace. Well, most of them." Silva crossed his arms together, though no apparent emotions could be noticed on his expression, well except the apparent pride in his eyes. His expression suddenly turned serious as he started explaining, anyway, to the important matter. "A while ago, the Southern Peace Auction was held in Yorkna City, as I'm sure you know, but all of the items were stolen, halting the auction, so the 10 Dons hired us to investigate the one or the ones responsible." He narrowed his eyes, adding, "After using all our connections and investigating methods, I found that the ones responsible are the Phantom Troop, a world-renowned gang of thieves with Class A bounties. I talked to the customers since and informed them of their identity, and they hired me to kill 2 of the gang. I guess that they want to send a message without losing all of their money. Anyway, I tracked them down and found that they split into groups, so I found a group of 2 and faced them." Yasuo interrupted him here with a smile of amusement. "Oh, you actually failed against little kids?" Silva's face couldn't help but twitch, though he didn't show any emotions on his face as he used his training as an assassin to hide what he is really feeling. "Stop messing around. Anyway, I well half succeeded killing one of them and wasn't far away from killing the other, as they weren't that strong, but someone interfered. The gang's leader Kurlo Lucifer, and he is quite strong, so it ended up being a battle of 1v2, and since according to what I judged his strength is equal to mine, so I just retreated and followed them, though I don't know if he noticed or not." A bright light passed in Yasuo's eyes as the plotting began again, looking for another checkmate. "What's your plan?" Silva answered, "It's quite simple really, since the gang split into groups each heading in a direction. I'm sure it will take few hours for backup to come, so I just need you to stall their leader for a bit while I kill the other one, and don't kill him. The money I was paid is only enough for 2 members with similar strength to the ones I faced." A glimmer of light passed in Yasuo's eyes as he curiously wondered, "Who is it?" "The other member." Chapter 94. A glimmer of light passed in Yasuo's eyes as he curiously wondered, "Who is it?" "The other member." Someone covered head to toe with reddish-brown bandages and a red boxer outfit over them. According to the information known about him, his name is Benolanov Ndongo. As for his abilities, it appeared to be quite restricted, and need to play music, which of course I didn't allow him to do. He is quite slow, but he was able to do so when the gang's leader arrived, giving him enough time. He conjured a spear as well as a few warrior gears on his body, and he seems to want to do something else, but I retreated so. As for the one I killed." Yasuo interrupted, "No need, I just wanted to know about the living target." His expression didn't change, though relief is hidden deep in his eyes as he thought to himself, "Good thing none of them were Pakanoda, else it would a bit troublesome to find another way." Silva nodded and started walking towards the roof side saying, "Shall we?" Yasuo didn't answer, instead, he followed after him. They jumped from one building to another until they reached a small one not far away, still within Silva's sight when he was at that building. "I'm sure he already sensed us." "Well, sensed me, so let's start." He waited after saying that until a portal appeared in front of them, which they went through, appearing in an extremely dark room with Yasuo retracting the dark purple crow before doing so. They could smell the rotting smell of dead meat, the sound of bugs, of cockroaches' feet touching the ground as they searched for the food. The dirty decaying food they needed, but the two didn't pay this much attention. Instead, they looked at the other two people in the room. Aside from Benolanov, who had a few wounds from which blood flow out, though barely, due to him using more bandages to stop the bleeding, and who already conjured warrior gear on him alone with a spear, there is a young man with black hair and gray eyes. Two of his distinguishing features are his cross-shaped tattoo on his forehead and a pair of orb-shaped earrings. His dark hair is hanging down naturally, almost hiding the cross-shaped tattoo on his forehead. He was only wearing dark pants and a simple white shirt, though it doesn't look so white anymore due to all the dirt on it and the cuts all over it. They already had their guard up, looking at the uninvited visitor while growing, and they only frowned more noticing there is another person with him. A person wearing a black sweater with black pants, his pitch black hair hanging down naturally as well, but not hiding the silver long chain earring on his left ear as he looked at them with his strange eyes, a pitch black eye, and a silvery eye. The air in the room seems to change as the pressure was forced to increase. The bugs and any living being in the dark small room froze. Frozen fright, not even being able to escape under the chilling atmosphere. The dark was opponent for none of the four as they could see each other clearly. The two tall people that just walked from the portal with it closing behind them almost instantly. They looked at each other, nodding, and disappeared, and not a word was said except the rumbling sound that reverberated through the building. The walls behind Benolanov and Krylov fell down almost completely destroyed, yet only one of them was sent back by the impact, destroying the wall behind him, that is Krylov, as a book appeared on his hand before Yasuo kicked him gently, sending him back. On the other hand, Benolanov disappeared with a fridge taking his place mere milliseconds before Silva reached, who ended up punching it instead, sending it through the already frail wall, leaving the fridge almost completely destroyed. Silva only stopped for a few seconds, spreading his N until he sensed Benolanov's location as the latter started using and hiding his presence, and he noticed something. Benolanov started performing a dance with a piece of specific music sounding through the building. This is due to the countless holes on his body, which is a tradition of his tribe. That didn't seem to startle Silva as he started running through the walls that posed no obstacle to him. He ran with an extreme speed towards where he sensed Benolanov and the source of the sounds. "Hi," said Yasuo, looking at Krylov, who just stood up, not answering. Instead, he flipped the pages of the book, noticing Yasuo not making any move. Then he lifted his hand as a white gun appeared on it and aimed to his right, to the empty wall, and pushed the trigger for a few seconds before firing a white bullet. He again flipped the pages of the book as the bullet, instead of hitting the wall, started going backward towards him once it touched the wall with a speed much faster than before. As the bullet was within mere cms from his head, he disappeared with Yasuo appearing in his place. Krylov appeared in Yasuo's place, then started running, trying to follow Silva, only for his sense of danger to peak as the same bullet appeared behind him through a portal, with another portal forming further in front of him with Yasuo appearing through it. "That's useless, so just let nature take its course and wait here," casually said Yasuo while stroking his earring and standing in his way. Krylov let out a sigh, troublesome. While thinking inside to himself, even if I exchange with the things I prepared once my cooldown is up, he will still just teleport to me. This is annoying, and it would have been worse if not for Maki's hunch and me being the closest to their location, and another Zoldyck appearing this fast was definitely not within my calculations. As he thought of this, he started walking towards Yasuo while flipping the book's pages. And it's the worst of the Zulks. The most known yet the most mysterious, with his abilities remaining unknown, so I really had no way to prepare for a teleportation ability. And I can't stall for the others to come. Bono can't afford such a thing, so. He took a deep breath, noticing the music sounds stopping with Benolanov not completing the whole dance, which means he can't use his ability and won't be able to do much against someone like Silva. The pages turned as he started walking towards Yasuo, with the same gun appearing in his left hand and shooting multiple times in several directions, and directly after that, he started running while turning the pages again and attacked with his left hand towards an area beside his heart. He targeted an area that won't pose too many obstacles to him but will bleed enough for what he wants to do. The deep wound doesn't seem to faze him as blood flowed into his left hand, with it turning completely crimson, yet blood didn't stop as it continued to flow out, with his face turning even paler than it already is. Yasuo didn't move from his place as he just looked at the scene play out, looked at all the white bullets that got reflected once they came in contact with the walls, and headed in his direction from all sides, leaving only one passage. A passage leading to Krilo, so the only way out is using the portal's ability to teleport from there fast enough so that the bullets don't follow him through them. Krilo narrowed his eyes with a goal hidden deep within them. This is a battle he wasn't prepared for, nor could he borrow abilities from the other gang members since he was alone. He was lucky that he was close to Bonolen's group and that Maki called him the moment she got the hunch, so all he can do is leaving the rest to the opponent's pride or carelessness, or I just need him to teleport far away for the plan to work. Yasuo's eyes seemed to look elsewhere, not paying much attention to what's happening around him, or so other people might think, as he thought to himself. I've become too strong. Even if he was prepared, I could see several ways I can kill him, and more methods will appear as the fight goes on, just like the one I see right now, so might as well test Violet Rose while I'm at it. As he thought of this, time started to slow down as Krilo's bloody hand was near him, as well as the numerous bullets all around. Silva evaded the spear without much trouble and instantly leaned to the side with his sharp hand, slicing Benolanov, leaving a deep wound, one of the many all over his body, as blood flowed down his mouth. He was barely able to see anything as his vision turned blurry, barely able to feel his body anymore. And Silva looked at this emotionlessly as he started striking, ready to deliver the final blow, vanishing another soul from the lands of the living, only for a pale hand to appear from a portal holding his hand and stopping the attack. Chapter 95. Silva evaded the spear without much trouble and instantly leaned to the side with his sharp hand, slicing Benolanov, leaving a deep wound, one of the many all over his body, as blood flowed down his mouth. He was barely able to see anything as his vision turned blurry, barely able to feel his body anymore. And Silva looked at this emotionlessly as he started striking, ready to deliver the final blow, vanishing another soul from the lands of the living, only for a pale hand to appear from a portal holding his hand and stopping the attack. Everything seems to freeze as Krilo's hand was less than a millimeter away from touching Yasuo, but this is just his perception, how Yasuo sees the world when he wants to. Almost instantly, a portal appeared between Yasuo's skin and Krilo's hand as it went through it, with Krilo not having enough time to react. His hand appeared through the destination portal as he felt a faint push, making his hand go faster, and the bloody hand ended up touching Krilo's face as the latter's eyes widened, having no time to react since the destination portal appeared with almost no space from his skin. Through all of this, Yasuo made no movement whatsoever, even as all the bullets almost reached him, until the sound of them hitting an invisible barrier, the sound of the bullets falling to the ground, resounded through the room. Yasuo started outputting his aura slightly into the portal, noticing it's not closing. This is due to something being in the middle of the portal, and that is an extremely small part of Krilo's hand. Well, it's more like an extremely small part of the forefront of his hand skin. And this is a limitation of the portal's ability. If there is something in the middle of the portal, Yasuo will need to feed the portal a certain portion of his aura relative to the object in the middle, specifically relative to its density and resistance, and if Yasuo is able to provide enough of his aura, the same scene happening right now will happen. As he focused more of his aura on the portal, It seemed to ignore the barrier that is his skin as it closed almost instantly with the pieces of his skin falling to the ground, though the cuts are so small he barely bled. But the problem with using this as a weapon, and something Yasuo found after several tests, are its consumption. It's just too big, and considering how much he spent doing this feat, especially since Kurlo seems to enter the state of Zetsu after the bloody hand touched him. Yasuo casually said, not making any movement even though Kurlo is frozen in the same position in front of him in the state of Zetsu, basically defenseless. Your ability is quite interesting, the ability to steal abilities, I guess. And the last one is quite dangerous, forcing nen users to enter Zetsu depending on how much damage you cause to yourself, huh? Well, I rarely meet people with abilities says yours, so I want to try something. An interesting experiment. The instant Yasuo said that, purple lines appeared all over his right arm as it disappeared for a split second before the purple lines disappeared, though there is something that changed. Purple lines appeared all over the conjured book on Kurlo's right hand before they disappeared as well, yet not damage could be noticed on the book. Kurlo just looked at the scene helplessly, not being able to move at all, and couldn't react fast enough to dissolve the book before Yasuo hit it, and the moment about 3 seconds passed since he touched himself. He disappeared from his place, retreating at a fast pace with a confused look on his face as he asked, "What did you do?" Yasuo looked thoughtful while stroking his earring, then asked back, "I don't know, can you check the book?" The Phantom leader frowned, as even with his personality he still found himself stressed, knowing Benolanov doesn't have much time, especially with how weird the situation he is in right now. But he knows he needs to calm down and think clearly, and that's exactly what he did as he started turning the pages of the book before dissolving the book without a change in his expression. Yasuo raised his brows and asked, wondering with a smile of amusement on his face, "Did an ability or more disappear?" "Well, that's certainly interesting." Kurlo didn't answer. Instead, he took a deep breath as he closed his eyes, remaining defenseless for a few seconds before taking one last deep breath and opening his gray eyes, looking at Yasuo emotionlessly, saying, "I want to hire you. Are you interested?" Yasuo's expression didn't change. Instead, he simply said with his casual expression, "Sure, please go on. I simply want you to get me and Bono out of this alive, and I'll owe you one, or if you don't trust I'll deliver, I'll pay money. As much as you want. Of course, know that if you want me to owe you, I won't do anything that will endanger the lives of anyone in my group. If it's not too dangerous, I can accept, of course," explained Kurlo patiently, even though time is of the essence for him, but he knows he needs to be patient as he waited for the Zoldik's answer. Yasuo raised his brows at this as he wondered, "Me accepting mostly favors, is that known, huh? I haven't really been keeping up with the news." Kurlo frowned, asking again, "He doesn't have enough time, do you accept?" The pale man gently stroked his earring, thinking about the proposition for a bit before saying, "At some point in the future, I will find you and ask for the favor, and well, I'm not really worried that you won't deliver, you'll lose more than you win doing that." After saying that, he started walking towards Kurlo, who looked extremely pale due to the bleeding. He started concentrating aura over his hand as Kurlo asked, looking at this with caution, "What do you want to do?" "I could have killed you a while ago, so you don't have to be so cautious. I just want to fulfill the job you just requested. Getting you out alive as well." Yasuo reached within an arm's distance from Kurlo after he finished saying that, as purple lines appeared all over his arm and strikes towards the Phantom leader. Kurlo didn't offer any resistance after hearing, as he looked at the attack coming towards him with a speed not that fast, making it possible for him to evade. Yet he didn't because he came to a few conclusions seeing all of the previous events play out, so he knows there is a high chance he won't kill him. In fact, he is almost 100% sure he won't. He just watched as the hand went through his heart as if intangible, leaving a purple mark once he retracted his arm, with purple lines spreading all over his body and shined brightly as he felt his body in pain. Pain more than before, much more than what he felt from the wound beside his heart. The deep wound that started closing rapidly as the purple light seems to surround it, creating what could be considered a miracle. An unscientific miracle that modern-day science can't possibly explain, something that seems more like a reality-warping power than the use of the laws of the universe. Krollo's face remained devoid of emotions, the pain not even fazing him one bit as he looked at the wound completely closing with the purple lines disappearing as well. Yasuo paid no further attention after doing that as he saw something with his domain and knew he needs to intervene, so focused his aura on his right arm, then it went through the portal he just created and 1. Held the assassin's hand before it went through Benolanav's heart, ending his life, the sharp hand that can even go through metal as if it's butter, yet he held it ignoring the incoming momentum. The force that would have shredded anyone was negated perfectly. Silva narrowed his eyes knowing exactly who it is, then retracted his hand once Yasuo let go. A large portal was formed, after which with Yasuo appearing through it and Krollo following closely behind him. "Explain," demanded Silva without any change in his expression as he just looked at Yasuo with his cat-like eyes. "Give me a minute." Yasuo walked towards Benolanav, whose consciousness is barely hanging, almost on the brink of passing out. Violet rose, M=1, T=1. The moment he activated the ability is the moment his hand went through Benolanav, leaving the same purple mark with the same miraculous scene playing out. Silva didn't interrupt, just watching until he heard Yasuo saying, "See you later." The spiders didn't respond, instead they just left, jumping through buildings, leaving the Zulks alone. Explain, Chapter 96. Silva didn't interrupt, just watching until he heard Yasuo saying, "See you later." The spiders didn't respond, instead they just left, jumping through buildings, leaving the Zulks alone. Explain. The air in the room seems to change into a solemn one that appeared heavier with the sound of rain outside as the Zoldyck family's head looked at Yasuo with a heavy expression on his face, waiting for a satisfactory explanation. "Sorry, but it was necessary. He hired me to get them out of this situation alive for a favor, and I really needed that favor because of one of the gang members' ability," slowly explained Yasuo as he formed another portal in which he went through with Silva following him. They appeared few miles away from the city as Yasuo added, "I have been looking for someone with an ability I need for a while, and according to my investigation, I found that it's highly likely one of the Siders has such an ability. I didn't plan for this, but since I found the chance I decided to take it. I hope you don't mind much." Hearing that didn't cause a change in Silva's expression. Instead, he informed, saying, "That will depend on what you need it for. You should know that I never failed in a job ever before, and I took pride in that, so continue." Yasuo nodded, already knowing that. "Well, first I want to say that I'll owe you one, so if you ever need anything, just ask. Anyway, in the simplest terms, that particular ability will help me know more about Nanika and Zig." That got Silva's attention as he narrowed his eyes, listening carefully. Yasuo continued, "You see, Nanika was a result of his expedition to the Dark Continent, and I'm sure you came to the same conclusion. I confirmed it a while ago after talking with the Hunter Association's chairman Netero, but due to some unknown event, it appears he can't tell us anything about it, and I think that particular spider's ability might help." Silva frowned and looked in deep thought for a while before letting out a sigh. "You should have told me earlier. And this will be the last time you do anything like this. If you take a mission, take it with the intent to finish it, and even though this is not your mission, it's still mine, and I failed the job. I would have failed it either way, but this is about the trust I put in you." Then he just shook his head. "I'm making this a bigger case than it really is. Your reason for doing it is good, the problem is that you didn't tell me, so just let me know if there is a next time and I'll help." Yasuo nodded as silence enveloped the place until Silva asked, "Do you need help, I mean?" The young Zoldyck shook his head. "Nah, I can handle it on my own, and it's better this way, but if I need help I'll definitely inform you. But now that I think about it, there is something that'll be helpful and only take a few minutes at most." Silva raised his brows, wondering, "Oh, what is it?" Yasuo smiled and said while stroking his earring, "I want you to use your main ability on me, the explosive orbs, but just gently, as I don't actually want to die." Why? Weirdly asked, having no idea of what the other wants to do. Well, I found I have a natural ability, but getting affected by another ability seems to be a condition for it to work, so I want to see if it will work on abilities such as yours, explained Yasuo without going into many details. Silva didn't mind as he instructed, any part of your body can activate it. And lifted his right arm to his right while focusing his aura on it, an aura that started shaping into a massive bright purple sphere with what looked like red lighting all around the sphere. He started moving the sphere slowly towards Yasuo, with the latter remaining defenseless, using only the basic principle of Nen called Ten, which doesn't provide much protection, especially the ability Silva possesses, one of the most devastating abilities ever known. Yasuo lifted his right arm without answering, preparing to receive the attack with the side of his arm, and well, receiving it isn't exactly what happened. Instead, the sphere seems to devour what it came in contact with, and it did the dame to Yasuo's flu, the small part of his arm's flesh, before he said, "That's enough." Only then did Silva dissolve the explosive orb as Yasuo closed his eyes, not caring about the missing flesh from his arm, though what's strange is the wound not bleeding at all. The anomaly focused as darkness surrounded him, as if not seeing anything, in a state of absolute focus, as a purple bubble enveloped him, sensing everything within. Sensing the remains of the explosive orb as it made contact with his aura, as the latter seemed to want to devour it. To know every little detail about it, and so it did. His aura seems to flow naturally into his right arm onto the forefront of his hand, forming into a small orb resting on his palm. A sphere of pure aura, vastly different than Silva's transmutation ability, since the latter actually transmit his aura into something in contrast to Yasuo, but the latter didn't finish just yet. He started doing what he really wanted to do, mimicking the ability, as he started copying exactly how Silva's Nen behaves when using the ability. How the sphere feel, which is something he knows clearly after his Nen had a taste of it, and only then did the sphere's shape starts to change, and it only continued to do so as he concentrated more and more aura on it. Minutes passed, yet the process still didn't finish, but even this amount of progress caused the Zolik family's head's eyes to widen as he looked at the spectacular scene playing out. As he looked at his son doing something that took him more than a year to do, an ability that he had to push his imagination and visualization to their limits to create, yet the young monster was able to do so in minutes, and even though there is a big difference between creating and mimicking, it's still a monstrous feat nonetheless. The sphere started shining in purple light as what looked like lightning flying around it, the difference being its color, because while the sphere remained in the same purple color, albeit a bit darker, the lightning around it became completely black. The sphere continued to enlarge for a while before Yasuo deemed it was enough. At that same instant, he activated negative violet rose and attacked his wounded right arm, albeit slowly, until he noticed that the part of the sphere that comes in contact with his arm disappears instead. Only then did he attack fully, with the sphere disappearing completely. This is due to a hidden limitation of violet rose ability, about what can be considered part of the ability, since he found creating aura spheres, as long as they're in contact with his hand and their overall shape is within close proximity to it, it's still considered part of his arms, hence they have the same effect as violet rose, while if the spheres became emitted, the effect is thereby lost. The wounds on his right arm healed almost instantly as he let out a sigh of absolute satisfaction. Thankfully, the orbs are considered part of the ability, making everything in the future much easier, and the ability is actually much more devastating than I thought, and much more useful, and it makes sense considering what he transmuted his aura into. You can copy abilities? Since when? Asked Silva with his arms crossed. Yasuo nodded. I found out a while ago. A glimmer of light passed in Silva's eyes as he asked further, I'm sure you already noticed Krollo's peculiarity and came to the same conclusion I came to. He has a copying or stealing abilities Hatsu, and he tried to use it on me, though I'm not sure how it works, but I'm sure it has something to do with the conjured book he holds on his right arm. Can you copy it? The book? Yasuo shook his head, answering, I can only mimic simple abilities with little to no restrictions, and found it impossible to mimic ones with too many conditions and limitations. Silva didn't question any further. Instead he asked about something else. Want to go home? Visit the others. Your mother missed you quite a lot. Easily accepted. Yasuo as Total appeared next to them. Sure, I was thinking of visiting anyway, and Illumi asked me to meet him as well. Oh, he did, huh? That's rare. By the way, about your actions in the Kaken Empire, what's your end goal? And considering how much money you're making as technically the booze of the underworld, why do you still accept assassination missions? Wondered Silva, genuinely curious. Well, I just take a breath of fresh air from time to time and it helps the family's reputation. Casually answered, which brought a small smile to the father's face and let out a small laugh, changing the subject. I think you have a lot of questions to answer about your fiancée. You really didn't tell us much about her except what your mother investigated. She will probably take you hostage until you answer everything. Yasuo's face twitched a bit hearing that, but just shook his head nonetheless. And so they went through several portals as the years of time accelerated. Seasons passed and tree leaves fell, whole trees fell but new ones spurted as well, and with them came the birth of new leaves. Chapter 97. No matter how much one tries, there seems to be something deeper at play, something beyond the fabric of space, beyond the fabric of time. Something hidden deep inside between the lines that seem to want to spread its clutches everywhere, yet its influence seems limited, as if there is an opposite force serving as its nemesis or trying to anyway. The force's traces could be noticed everywhere, faintly influencing everything it can and changing the fabric of reality to balance things out, but even it seems to have a limit on someone, something, and someplace. That force is called fate, and it might not just be an illusionary concept in such a world. Perhaps, there is more to it than meets the eye. And so the gears of time moved as the mechanical sound reverberated through the universe as seasons passed. The strange planet revolved around the insanely large sun, much larger than the already large planet, but far enough to only receive enough light and energy to keep life going, to provide the needed warmth to keep most of the frail life on it alive. The planet revolved around the sun at a speed so fast it created the known climate change, and with the fact that the planet revolves around itself, the concept of the night and day as well, a perfect rotation of the two, allowing life to exist and the sun to shine on a specific lake for that certain amount of time. Seasons passed as climate changed, and so did the world with it. Buildings fell only for new ones to stand in their place, and families fell only for a new one to take their place. Mafia families, to be specific, a virus that expanded whenever a new host seems available, even if the family had to make it as so through any means necessary. A force to be reckoned through the world, a mafia family so big and strong that there was never any contender throughout the known human history. The Silver Snake family, known before as the Heil Lee family, a virus that traveled oceans looking for new hosts, becoming stronger once it took over that said host, a force to be feared. It's rumored that once the mafia families noticed the virus' unending greed for more hosts, they decided to ally for the simple goal of stopping what they consider to be a disease that would one day threaten their existence, yet even that didn't matter as their territory was taken over regardless, and their resistance did little to stop that as two of them disappeared from the face of the planet. The leader of the said family, or as they call her, the manipulator, due to her natural ability to see the darkness within people's hearts, to see what she considers as their deepest disgusting desires, and use it against them to get what she wants. Her ability to use her underlines perfectly for the situation and use their abilities to get what she wants as she oversees the whole family, and with her ability to choose the perfect person for the job, creating a family that is nigh impossible to tear through from inside out, leaving the opponent with one solution: brute force. And well, that just makes it a losing game, as the family's high-ranking members are known to be weirdly strong, and especially the most important members of the family. The underboss Arillan, the vice-boss Cashew, though there was someone else, but his position remained vacant after his disappearance. This force left the other mafia families with but one choice: to retreat and share one territory, joining their forces in a tight space, with the United of Saherta being that place, considering it's home to York City where the biggest auctions are held. They hid in their nest waiting with the dream of a miraculous antidote saving them from the disease, from the snake that threatened to devour them alive. The snake that took most of the world's underworld as its nest and grew stronger and stronger with time being the only barrier to taking the rest of the known world, as the snake didn't digest all the food yet, but its hunger is infinite, so it's only a matter of time. Yet the silver snake looked harmless, lying her head on the dark-haired man's chest. They were lying on a vast green hill with what looked like animals with varying colors all around. She looked like an angel with her long silky hair flowing all over the place, with the white simple dress that suited her milky skin and pitch-black eyes, the peaceful expression while humming in her steady beautiful voice. The 9-year-old Aluka could be seen mounting a pink lion running around the hill, having her share of fun, leaving the two in the relaxing and quiet atmosphere as even all the animals around the hills made no noise. The dark-haired man seems to be gently caressing her hair while looking at the sky high above him, or so one may think. He seemed to be focused on something, as if looking at something none can see but he can with his strange eyes. His beautiful right scarlet eye in contrast to the dark abyss that is his left eye. But what one can see if Gyo is used is the purple bubble floating above them, but that's just it. There is nothing else that he should be focusing on, but again people's perceptions are different, so what he sees isn't what others see. What he sees is a quantum world, a beautifully designed colorful world of wonders and unknown. A place where the normal physical laws we know don't work. What he is focusing on is a particular atom, one amongst the many in that mysterious world. A strange atom, even in such a strange world, making one wonder whether it's natural or it's his doing. An atom that disappears from a place only to appear on another, instantly ignoring physical space. Ignoring the space limitation, and the strange thing is no portal appearing at all, meaning this isn't the doing of that particular ability. It's the result of something more. The result of his controlled domain. When he created the domain, he created it with the intention that the stronger he becomes, the stronger his sense becomes, and with the addition of the amplification domain, that allows him to sense something that shouldn't normally be possible. Space. And anything he can sense is within his control, so he found he can do some interesting things by manipulating space, which would have been much harder if not for how his ability worked. When he sees into the quantum level, it also means accepting a massive amount of information, since he will see all the numerous things that exist on that level, including molecules, microorganisms, to the things that make up atoms such as protons, neutrons, and electrons, which are composed of even smaller particles, such as quarks. This would have created a state of information overload that could possibly kill him if he didn't predict this problem and learn something to counter it. How to ignore useless or unnecessary information in his domain, and this helped him gain the proficiency needed to do something else with his space control. When his sense reaches their maximum, hence sensing space, all he sees and feels at that point is dark, empty space, so that presents the problem of how can he control other things when he wants to manipulate space. If he wants to control an object in space, this creates a contradiction he needs to fix, and so he did. By creating an amplification domain small enough to sense space and adjust his senses to the level he wants to control while keeping his sense over space also. This explains the next scene, as a simple leaf started teleporting everywhere in his amplification domain with the same atom still doing the same. Only after cancelling his amplification domain did the control domain made its full appearance with a range almost reaching 600 meters. That is strange considering he found expanding his domain almost impossible since reaching the 400 meters mark. This is simply due to his right scarlet eye and all the dark energy produced by the eye all over his body. He found that when the eye turns scarlet, it strengthens his control domain significantly, and no just that, it strengthens every specialty ability, since he noticed his future sight strengthening as well. He attributed that to him being already a specialist, so the eye strengthens his specialist abilities instead of turning him into a specialist, and he noticed the strengthening effect getting stronger slowly across the years and stopped getting any stronger only a while ago. Once he trained his space manipulation abilities enough, the scarlet color receded from his right eye with the silvery color returning, and asked, since he rarely meddles in her family business, How long before you target the last families? Morena answered lazily as if she has no care in the world, while on his chest, I should be able to solve everything in a little bit more than 3 months, then I'll continue. Yasuo slightly smiled. Oh, not bad at all. He sensed something interesting before he finished talking as his eyes turned completely white for a split second, then informed before disappearing, I'll be back in a few minutes. Hey hunters. A little stop. This is your reminder that breaks are important. Unless you're Killua. Then you're just built differently anyway. Onward. Chapter 98. Yasuo slightly smiled. Oh, not bad at all. He sensed something interesting before he finished talking as his eyes turned completely white for a split second, then informed before disappearing, I'll be back in a few minutes. Near the Zoldyck family's mansion, a dark-haired woman could be seen on her knees, not caring about the dirt beneath them, nor did she care about the crimson drops that fell on her black kimono and the soil feeding it, as an unrecognizable sound seemed to come out of her mouth. Until Yasuo appeared. He appeared only a bit afterward next to Kikuo Zoldyck, his mother, as the latter seems to be in a state of mild shock, muttering something. He really did it, hee, while letting out a smile laugh as blood came down her face due to the long scar on it, a scar that seems new, like it happened only a few seconds ago, and the fresh blood testifies to that. Are you okay? Hearing that brought her out of her daze as she looked up only to see Yasuo standing in front of her, then nodded with a cheerful smile on her face. Hee, extremely so, a smile that looks creepy with the addition of blood on her face. Yasuo shook his head, used to her behavior, and crouched down to her level, then started concentrating aura on his right hand before stabbing through her, leaving a purple mark but causing no harm. This is due to him activating the negative rose ability. Purple lines started spreading all over her for a split second before the wound healed across the following second as the blood on her face started flying out until her face and dress became completely clean, then gently helped her up and started walking towards the mansion. They walked with Kikuo's arms in his as she rested her head on his shoulder and said excitedly, You won't believe what Killua did. Yasuo let out a sigh, knowing her well enough to realize she allowed him to hit just to see whether he will really go through with it and he will behave afterward. I know what he did, all right, it's kinda obvious, and I told you he will do something similar. That seems to get her out of her stupor a bit, but she continued nonetheless with apparent happiness in her voice. You did, but I still can't believe he did it. He really stabbed me. And it was spectacular. His expression didn't change one bit, remaining cold like ice. Yasuo just smiled, experiencing just another strange event among the many he experienced in the past in his strange family, and well, he finds it amusing. It's natural he will do such a thing. He isn't fit to be an assassin, as he really doesn't like killing, and the fact that you guys didn't allow him to visit Aluka at all, even when we go back here, played a role as well. You guys drove him into doing this, so yeah. Kikuo just let out a laugh as she brought her fan over her mouth. He will definitely come back on his own, otherwise we will get him back through any means once the other come back. What do you think? Will he come back on his own? Casually answered Yasuo without giving it much thought, or he has already thought about it before. If it's your meaning of coming back, then it's unlikely. He will probably just come to visit Aluka if she's here, but it also depends on what he faces out there, so I'm not entirely sure. Kikuo didn't disagree, but she's still happy as she added. He plotted to escape once everyone else left except Maluki, since he doesn't see him as an obstacle, and Maha taking the risk on whether the latter will stop him or not. And you? The young Zoldyck got the hint and explained, It's simple really. He trusts me to a certain extent because of how I treat Aluka, so he believed I won't stop him. While thinking in his mind, he escaped more than a month before he escaped in the story. A small change, but a change nonetheless, which lead to Zig still being in the Zoldyck's property, yet he didn't stop him. And you didn't? Nah, it's you and the rest's job to keep an eye on him. I'm not interested in meddling in the family heir business, and let him have his fun outside. Perhaps he will really come back and accept his position. Kikuo just shrugged his shoulder. Even Illumi doesn't seem to have much interest in this, spending most of his time training and taking jobs strolling outside from time to time. You play a part in this, you know. With all your lessons during your spars, and he takes them seriously. Yasuo didn't seem to care about this change. Well, it's a good thing, isn't it? He will still get him back if father asked him, so it doesn't matter much. Kikyo just shook her head, though the cheerful smile never left her face. Of course you don't, just what did I expect? The sound of crying could be heard clearer and clearer as they neared the mansion, the sound of Maluki, who was unlucky enough to experience the same fate, and since he rarely trains, his resistance to pain is quite low. Well, he never trains. Yasuo walked next to him, raising his brows. Stop crying and don't be such a baby. Then crouched down as he heard the baby screaming even further, but it hurts and there will be a scar. Yasuo didn't talk any further and just activated the negative rose as he stabbed him, with the same scene happening. Maluki looked at the scar disappearing almost instantly, stunned, and the restoration happened so fast he barely felt the accumulated pain. This is your ability? There isn't even a scar. He seems to be muttering to himself more than asking. The only difference between you and a normal person is your ability. If you trained Nen just a bit more, you would have been able to defend against the Nenless attack, since he didn't really attack seriously. Well, your future is up to you, so whatever. Yasuo stood up, after which, with Maluki nodding seriously, though only the latter knows whether he will really train or not. Mom. He escaped. I lost sight of him. Sorry, informed Kalito, who is seen running back from the same way they came from. He ran to Kikyo, who started patting him, not minding one bit. Don't worry about it, sweetie. Only now did he notice her face completely spotless with a wound on it, startling him. Anyway, I will be around for a while, so if you need anything just call. The young Zoldyck disappeared directly after that. Kikyo contacts Silva directly after and informed him of the incident, with the latter ordering some specific servants to keep an eye on him without making contact, and so, the days passed as the month of December arrived, signifying the arrival of winter as well and the return of several of the Sulks home, including Illumi. This also means it's only about a month from reaching the year 1999, the year of beginnings and endings. Oh, so you made a friend? Wondered Yasuo, with amusement apparent in his eyes, looking at the dark-haired person sitting next to him. Illumi. The two could be seen sitting atop of Yasuo's lab on the roof. Illumi's face twitched slightly. As I said, he just wants to fight me, and he will likely hire me to kill him in the future, so we're not friends. I just find it interesting to talk with him, and he is quite strong. Stronger than you? I don't think so. But it will depend on how I plan the battle and if I make any mistakes. The other Zoldyck raised his brow. Well, doesn't that mean you will win? To which Illumi nodded. After which, Yasuo stood up, saying, well, I guess I will see you later. As a portal started forming in front of him. Illumi nodded, see you. Then Yasuo disappeared into the portal, appearing far away, ready to take his shortcut to the Kaken Empire, though before doing that, he called Aluka, who is still in the house, and said before hanging up, when I send you a message, teleport to me. Then disappeared into another portal. As for Morena, well, she happened to find an interesting ability, an ability one of her underlines had, who happened to mysteriously disappear. The ability allows her to conjure a knife, and when a simple condition is met, it allows her to teleport anywhere she's been in the world. The condition is quite simple: she needs to be in a locked room with a single door and no other exits for the ability to activate by cutting open the wall, giving him access to an alternate dimension which lead to any place she set foot in, and she made similar rooms in every headquarter of the family all around the world. Chapter 99. In a mansion a little bit outside of the Kaken Empire's capital, Yasuo could be seen on the balcony sitting on a chair with his legs crossed while also stroking his silver earring with a thoughtful expression on his face. The bright sun shining upon him as he took sips of coffee, welcoming the coming of a bright new day. His eyes glimmered in a bright light, thinking about the events that happened over the past months, events that are too important for his future plans. In the end Illumi didn't behave the same as in the story and just monitored Killua without interfering, but Killua actually did end up meeting Gon in the Hunter's exam and the other bunch, leading to a similar sequence of events. And Hisoka passed the exam with Illumi, which is interesting. What changed is that Killua actually passed the Hunter's exam, becoming a hunter with Gon, and Killua didn't come back home. Instead, the group went on their own separate ways earlier, with Gon and Killua heading towards Heaven's Arena a bit earlier, which shouldn't pose that much of an obstacle since I have what they will need in Greed Island. After thinking for a bit, he stood up, walking back inside while wondering, I wonder if the spiders will go to Yorknu City again, especially since a pair of the Scarlet Eyes are on auction. Hopefully, they do, making everything so much easier. Good morning. The lazy sound came from Morena, who just woke up. She slowly walked in his direction, barefoot, almost completely naked if not for the white sweater she's wearing, Yasuo's sweater that looked like a dress on her, reaching her thighs, suiting her milky skin perfectly. 4. She walked to him and circled her arms around his neck as he held her waist, bringing her closer into a passionate kiss. She seems to want to dive into his embrace further than she already is, as she let out few moans, not able to hide how good and comfortable such a simple action with him is. The battle of tongues went on for a while, no having enough of each other. It turned into another battle, leaving Morena exhausted, so he picked her up to the shower, relaxing in each other's embrace in the bathtub as he wondered. The Southern Peace auction isn't far off. Are you planning on using it to exterminate the rest of Mafia families? She's lying on his chest, relaxing in the hot water as smoke started filling the bathroom. She cozily answered, I'll wait until after the auction. Until they let their guard down a bit, then it'll be an easy victory. Yasuo gently stroked his earring and offered an alternative. There is a chance that the spiders will target the auction, and it's likely there will be a confrontation between them and the shadow beasts, leaving the 8 Dons without much defense since they're not that strong, so you can make use of that. That brought a gleam of light to the Silver Snake's eyes, but there also seems to be some hesitation in them as well, so she asked to make sure, if so, won't they just hire your family to kill the spiders since there won't be a conflict of interest? Yasuo shook his head, eliminating her doubt while caressing her wet silky hair gently. It won't matter if the spiders also hired us to eliminate the 8 Dons, which will cancel the target on their back, and I think they will. Their leader is quite smart after all. In fact, I think he will definitely target the auction, knowing the Dons are our enemy, so we won't go against each other. Instead, it will be like an unofficial alliance. They want money and we want the territory and the title of the sole underworld mafia family in the world. Morena closed her eyes, resting her head on his chest with a peaceful smile on her face. Then that makes things much easier. I'll think of a way to make use of that. And are you participating? Affirmed Yasuo. Yeah, I have a few important things to do there, so I might help, though I don't think I will need to. Then comfortable silence enveloped the place as they relaxed for a bit before they went out and finished wearing their clothes by the time the servants prepared breakfast. I will wake Aluka up, you go first, Yasuo informed Morena before heading to Aluka's room. He smiled, noticed her clinging to the pink pillow next to her, lost in the land of dreams. Next to her is a sleeping pink cat which almost looked normal if not for the color and the pink energy filling it beneath that exterior. He walked beside her and started pinching her cheek, waking her up. Aluka, it's morning, so let's have breakfast. Wah and she seems to want to complain, but him pinching her cheek stopped her from doing so. Yasuo couldn't help but smile slightly, seeing another dose of cuteness across the many in the past months. Once Aluka got out of her daze, she lifted her arms signaling for him to pick her up, and he did, cleaning her face before heading to the dining table where Morena is already waiting, and they had breakfast with some small talks just like any other normal family. After breakfast, each went to do their own thing, with Aluka just playing around, Morena going to work. As for Yasuo, he walked down the stairs leading to the basement, which in itself leads to a hidden door leading downwards into a tightly secured area, an exquisite white room engraved with some kind of inscription all around, with a locked door also engraved. The door opened by itself once he reached a certain distance from, though what one might not have noticed is the small amount of aura he emitted that made contact with the door, triggering some kind of mechanism. He walked through a short hallway leading to a similar door which also opened by itself, opening Pandora's box. An extremely large lab that, if it were to ever be exposed to the world, as in anything in it getting exposed, could potentially lead to the end of humanity. Things that are so dangerous that if the world were to even know of the lab and the things inside, they'd risk using nuclear-level weapons to eliminate the danger, and even ignoring that they'll destroy the Kaken Empire's capital with it. The door closed behind Yasuo as the whole lab appeared within his sight with all its glory. Giant tubes filled with some kind of fluid and all kinds of strange organisms, body parts, animals, and so on. There could even be noticed some corpses that looked like the victims of the eye, disfigured corpses forcefully wrung to death, ones that could only be found in the basement of the International Permit Agency, yet many could be seen here. And they wouldn't have existed if not for Nanika, if not for the two servants of the Zoldyck family denying her requests, and Yasuo made sure to get most of the victims and leave them in his lab. Another interesting thing that could be noticed is the purple lines around everything in the lab. From the corpses to even the smallest of organisms to every tool. The same lines that appear when using his ability Violet Rose, yet the lines don't disappear. In fact, they have been existing for over a year, since he created this lab. This is the effect of delayed rose, allowing the damage to accumulate over time and gives him the ability to trigger it whenever he wants, and this is his purpose. He can erase everything within the lab whenever he wants, wherever he is, which means the chances of it ever being exposed is zero, especially considering all the ROI threads all around, so he will know if anything happened in his lab. The White Lab seems to have every destructive thing someone obsessed with destroying the world would wish to have, yet most of them don't seem to attract Yasuo's attention as much as the reflection in his eyes, a reflection of a clean glass chamber with what looked like white smoke inside. He walked inside through the decontamination hallway to the only thing inside is a test table with the temperature inside being quite low. On the table is a rat locked inside a cage, and surprisingly it doesn't seem to have a problem with the cold temperature. In fact, the rat looks quite cozy. This is due to something that's made apparent with the rat's appearance, the faint blue skin, a result of the zombie disease at work. The organisms that are dedicatedly working inside the rat's body. The process that produces additional thermal energy enough to fight off the cold temperature outside. Yasuo noted that peculiarity a while ago, so instead he created an amplification domain around it and observed the rat for a while as a smile of success surfaced on his face. Zobi V3. Sequence 1763. Success. Chapter 100. Yasuo noted that peculiarity a while ago, so instead he created an amplification domain around it and observed the rat for a while as a smile of success surfaced on his face. Zobi V3. Sequence 1763. Success. Enhanced Zobi organism success. Completely controlled Zobi organism success. Completely controlled bacteriophage success. Perfect self-sustenance. Success. Minimal consumption success. After checking the Zobi organism's activity for a while, he started the next phase, which is quite simple. Using his control domain, he isolated one single grown-up Zobi organism and numerous phages before erasing the rat from existence. Then he simply transferred the Zobi organism as well as the phages to himself before expanding the amplification domain to envelop him completely, then started monitoring his body, specifically the organism's activity as it reproduced. And as it did so, his appearance started to change. Well, it's just his skin color that started to slightly change, gaining a slight blue shade all over his skin for a while. He just stood there making sure the organism is working as intended, and it did, as once it reproduced enough it simply stopped doing so. In fact, it stopped doing anything as the phages took complete control over it, and its color started to change, becoming silvery as the organisms enter their slumber state, and so did the phages' organisms as his skin color returned to normal, albeit a bit silverly. He still continued the monitoring for a while before leaving the chamber, heading towards another chamber that has a small pool in it, with the temperature being extremely high in contrast to the other chamber. The pool is filled with a strange black liquid, a liquid so still yet feels so dangerous it will bring chills to anyone seeing it. There could also be noticed that the whole room is engraved as well as the pool with a faintly shining inscription. He started outputting his aura into the pool as the inscription started shining brighter and brighter as it devoured his aura. In return acted as a battery-saving nen for the liquid to feed on it at its own pace, a poison he is preparing for a future project. An evolutionary poison with infinite possibilities. Yasuo stroked his earring with a strange expression on his face as he wondered, I wonder, will it really work? Pushing the percentage even higher. Stealthy footsteps. Several stealthy footsteps resounded faintly throughout the abandoned building. An uninhabited building among the many in the rundown area filled with broken buildings, fallen walls, and the dust of the ancient. The 10 individuals walked into the building, finding someone already waiting for them, someone they expected, a young man with combed-back black hair and gray eyes. He is wearing a dark purple fur-collared leather and a fur trench coat that is unbuttoned, revealing his muscular body, while the coat is imprinted with the golden St. Peter's cross on the back, Kurlo Lucifer, the spider's head. You're late, why? Asked Kurlo. Hisoka is the one who was late, we had to wait for a while in the meet-up place before he showed up. Explained a tall slender woman with long pointed features. She has short, straight, blonde hair reaching down to her neck. Her attire consists of a dark purple suit, reminiscent of a working woman's suit, which exposed much of her cleavage, and a pair of flat, pink shoes. This is Pakanoda, one of the spider's legs, and she didn't look pleased looking at the one at fault. The person didn't seem to care as he walked a little bit further before taking a seat on one of the broken walls everywhere, though he still explained with a smile never leaving his face once he noticed Kurlo's questioning eyes. I was just performing magic tricks for an unwilling audience, so excuse my behavior. The explanation made most of the members' faces twitch as they looked at the jester of the spider. He is a tall man with light skin and a very muscular physique, and red hair flowing upwards. His attire consists of green pants and a sleeveless shirt and several green bracelets on his upper arms and wrist. He has a paint of a blue star on his right cheek and a yellow teardrop on his left one, as well as other card symbols on his shirt. This is Hisoka Moro, one of the spider's legs, though the jester is a more fitting description. TSK. That's the sound Nobunaga made, being the most one that openly shows his untrust in Hisoka, as he also took a seat with Fieten doing so as well. The two are number 1 and 2 respectively. Kurlo's expression didn't change used to such situations. Instead, he just waited until everyone sat down, then started informing them. I think you already guessed, but we'll be targeting the Southern Peace Auction, as the things auctioned this year are extremely valuable. What's your plan if they hired the Zulks again? Directly asked Pakanoda, showing her trust in him. After all, each one of them still remember the incident years ago that almost lost them the spider's head, though not everyone was there. Kurlo of course let them know of what happened and his conclusions regarding the mysterious Zoldyck. Of course, there won't be a conflict of interest, so this time we'll actually be helping each other. I'm sure he won't interfere, and even if he did, he will stall just like I need him to, since I will also hire the Zulks to get rid of the remaining Dons. Simply explained Kurlo, giving more questions than answers, especially so for Hisoka, whose curiosity piqued as he thought to himself. A Zoldyck? Is it their head, or a Lumi, or his brother? If it's the latter, then I'm really looking forward to meeting him. Someone Kurlo's cautious of, as he paid his complete attention to what Kurlo has to say. Kurlo added, answering all the questions they have in mind. The plan is simple really. I will be the distraction, so if they hire the Zulks they will come after me, but I will also hire the Zulks to kill all the Dons, which in return will cancel the targets on our backs, so I will be safe while you'll all finish the robbery. Of course there is the variable called which of the Zulks are gonna take the job against me, and I think it's unlikely for it to be Yasuo Zoldyck. The United of Saherta is the last underworld territory the Silver Snake family has yet to take control of. So, hearing that brought a light of comprehension to Pakunoda's eyes as she continued in his place. We'll be helping him so he won't interfere. In fact, he will take the opportunity since the Silver Snake is his. Krolo nodded and was about to continue before he heard Hisoka, who couldn't hold back his curiosity, wondered, "You're all scared of going against one person?" That didn't change Krolo's expression as he calmly answered, "He is problematic, his abilities are mostly unknown, but from what I observed in our confrontation, I don't want him as an enemy. He has a teleportation ability, or more like he creates a portal in which he as well as anyone can go through. Its range is at least several buildings and he can create multiple at a time, so that makes quite a lot of our abilities useless." He continued, "Then there is the one I'm not sure of, something shielding him against attacks from all directions or something similar. I believe he either transmute his aura to an invisible substance or conjures something invisible he can manipulate, or any other category really, so you can see how something invisible can be extremely dangerous. The most dangerous ability, however, is the one I know least about, simply the ability to erase or heal thing. He was able to erase an ability of mine with it and heal a deep wound almost instantly, so yeah, I don't want to go against him unless necessary, and the numbers advantage won't really work on him, so yeah." Then silence enveloped the dark broken room for a few seconds as Hisoka comprehended the implication of Krolo's tone. Only he knows the dose of ketamine rushing through his blood at the moment. Stronger than Krolo? And Illumi didn't tell me at all. I should have investigated the remaining Zolpsyches. Ignoring a beautifully grown tree is a sin in itself. Only after a while did Krolo say, "Now that you know the overall plan, let's go into details." Yet even the spiders didn't see another variable coming into play. The scarlet is the variable's calling. The means are his life, the drive is his emotions, an undying rage and hatred hidden deep within the brown eyes as the golden hair flowed down, trying to mask the emotions as well until the time for them to be unleashed are reached. The dark strange crow standing atop looking down on this with unknown intentions, a variable impossible to read as the strings spread from within its dark vertical eye.